Governing Board meeting of the Cabrillo Unified School District. The Governing Board met in closed session from 6 to 7 p.m. and took one action. Under personnel matters, the Governing Board voted 5-0 to ratify the release of a probationary classified employee. Welcome all tonight. We have our next item, which is the Pledge of Allegiance, and Kitty Pearlswag is going to lead us. Welcome, Kitty.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kitty. It brings us to item 7, adoption of agenda as presented, amended. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That brings us to item 8, student staff community recognition. Are you doing this, Elizabeth?
Still not.
Thank you. I would like to invite Mr. Ward up here for a moment. And is Lene here in the room?
Oops. That's all that.
So I'm actually going to introduce to you a member of our community who is going to share the first recognition and then ask Mr. Ward to help with the second recognition.
Thank you for having me this evening. I'm Lene Whitley-Putz, and I'm here before you as a parent of 2 Cabrillo Unified School District children, and also a representative from Coastal Repertory Theater. In September and October, Coastal Repertory Theater performed The Diary of Anne Frank and hosted an international museum exhibit documenting Anne Frank's life and the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany. All of the performances of this show were performed for full houses, but 2 of our sold-out audiences were exceptional for another reason. They were performed for an audience of 8th graders. In addition to thanking Elizabeth Schuck for her interest and support, Coastal Rep would like to make 3 distinct acknowledgments as part of this unprecedented performance. First, to the staff and student body of Cunha Intermediate, we would like to offer a hearty round of applause. The Cunha 8th graders were a respectful, interested, and appreciative audience. Their performance at Anne Frank is a credit to the school, to the staff, and to this community. We were so proud to host this terrific bunch of students. Their teachers provided a wonderful role model for them, attending a 3-hour workshop the first week of school, and coordinating with Coastal Rep staff to maintain order in what possibly could have been a chaotic situation. A second group of Cabrillo students merits particular thanks. A wonderful group of teens participated in a workshop with Dr. Robert Levin from the Anne Frank Center in New York and volunteered to be the docents for the Anne Frank exhibit throughout the run of the play, illustrating commitment, intellectual engagement, and professionalism. They were exceptional docents and stepped up to help usher, to serve coffee to patrons, and prepare the theater for guests. We are delighted with this group of motivated Cabrillo Unified students and invite them to continue participating as volunteers at our theater. Finally, we need to offer a standing ovation to Jim Ward. From the moment Coastal Rep reached out to Jim to suggest a collaboration on this play, he has worked steadily with our producer, Leslie Robertson, to schedule the weekday shows, secure permission from the school and district, and arrange funding for the students to participate. This collaboration would not have happened without Leslie and Jim's hard work, which began during the summer and continued after Jim had moved from Cunha to his new position at Hatch. His dedication and commitment to his students and to theater arts deserves commendation. At the beginning of the semester, during the whirlwind of back-to-school nights and new jobs, we tried something new, and the results were amazing. We want to offer our humble thanks to Jim and the staff and students at Cunha for their exceptional participation in this amazing community event. And the cast and crew from The Diary of Anne Frank would like to give Jim the heart of the theater. Thank you.
Thanks.
Wow, that's great. This has been I told the Coastal Rep folks that this has been a dream of mine to have a weekday performance for about 10 years. I've been thinking about it, and we've talked about it a little bit, but it's been really hard to get together. And Lene and Leslie, and I really want to applaud Mike Williams at CUNA for his support all along and dedication and hard work to getting it organized. It wouldn't have come together without his unblinking commitment to having the kids experience this field trip. Every conversation with him was positive and encouraging and supportive. And again, we definitely could not have done it without Mike Williams and Lala Lopez's support. And the CUNA 8th grade teachers who were on board and again didn't hesitate and were excited and positive. And again, Coastal Repertory Theater, Artistic Director Michael Letterman, and Lene Whitney-Putz for all her time and dedication. It was just a really positive experience. My favorite moments were realizing that some of our students had never seen a live play before. Probably half had never been in a theater and really didn't understand. The play opens with, as you enter the theater, if you didn't go, they built a replica bookshelf. The doors opened, this bookshelf at the front door. It was really amazing. And with the actors on stage, as they are in the secret annex, and the kids just were quiet and they just didn't understand it. And at intermission, the actors stayed on the stage and continued living quietly in the annex, and the audience stayed quiet, and the kids really took it in, and it was just an amazingly beautiful experience, and I was just proud to be part of it. So thank you very much. That's great. I want to, along with Lene, recognize the students who acted as docents, and I'd ask them to come up that are here. I know I see Kitty. Come on up, Kitty Prosvite. Stand up here. Is Tessa Lane here tonight? Emma Haas? No? Great. Okay. Thank you.
And Marissa can't be here.
Marissa, and you can take Marissa Cunha or have been behind? Okay. And Phoebe Geller? Okay. And Kyle Eckert? Liz Vogel? Sisters. Good job.
We'll keep going.
Yes, thank you so much. Cody Putz. And finally, Sienna Henshelwood. Thank you. Congratulations. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Mr. Ward, I just have to say, and Lene, that presentation made my heart sing.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Jim, Lene, and students. We really appreciate the effort and coming today and allowing us to honor you, and it's a really wonderful thing. I didn't get to see the students there, but I did get to take my own daughter to the play, and it was a really incredible performance. So thank you, and I love that integration of performing arts with our own education. So hopefully it'll continue, the beginning of something. So thank you very much. Brings us to item 9, comments from the public related to items not on this agenda. None? Moving on, it brings us to representative reports. CUTA, Tom, welcome. They don't want to hear you. They already hear you talk enough at school.
Hey, Mr. Cox. They have homework.
They have homework to do. Is that your fault?
It's not due until next Thursday.
Someone else's fault, though, Tom.
First of all, Tony, I'm pulling a Billy Bean tonight. So if you guys are baseball fans, you know what that means. And it's not working, so I'm trying to avoid the game and see what's happening. First of all, with the play, did Jim leave? Jim, Mike and I were talking, we're all excited because 1776 is playing up in San Francisco. So there's our next one, to take the kids for a Revolutionary War musical. I'm going to go back and talk a little bit about the history. I guess I want to kind of go back a few years. I'm really happy to see that, hello Brenda. I'm real happy to see that the budget is extremely healthy. And so I want to go back to the history and just kind of remind everyone that the last 7 years, teachers have been given a lot. A couple years ago, I want to remind everyone that I said, trust the union, that don't worry, if things get really bad, the union will be there for you. And I think you guys were most of you were on the board when I said that. Well, we've proven that you can trust us. We've taken the hits, we've taken the health care, we've taken the cuts, we've taken everything. So as we're getting healthy again and things are starting to go positive again, I just want the board to kind of think that in the future, it might be a great opportunity to bring the district really close again, and the teachers feeling like this is the place to stay, this is the place to be, this is a place to work. But I really think that the next months, years are crucial to that kind of turnaround. So I just want to leave it open to you guys to talk things in the next 6 months, year, and see how we're going to make these changes. I know when the committee that's going around right now, what's the name of the strategic plan? The young man and I were talking, one of the first things we talked about is the most important thing is get the best teachers. And there's only one way to do that, and there's only one way to keep them. And healthcare is not going to keep them there anymore, so we need to start really thinking about how we're going to bump things up. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Is CSEA, is Lana here? No? Okay. Moves us on to item 11, reports, information, and presentations. 11A, receive report on Cabrillo Unified School District Summer Intervention Programs.
It's going to take us 1 minute.
Do you need the screen?
I do need the screen. So while the computer is firing up, I'd like to invite up 4 people that helped to coordinate our summer programs this year. Debbie Silveria is the lead teacher of our Kickoff to Kindergarten program. Debbie, can you come up front? Kathy Trulick was the principal of our elementary programs this past summer. Mike Williams was the principal of our secondary programs this last summer. And Mandy Robertson was the counselor and teacher in charge for our program this summer. And I'll invite all 4 of them up. Everybody ready? It's showtime. Sharing with you about the components from the different programs this summer, and I'm going to invite Debbie Silveria up first.
Hi, good evening. I wanted to tell you about preschool, pre-K, and what we had 6 classrooms. 4 were funded by the Bridges to Success grant, 1 was funded by Migrant, and 1 was funded by the Title I monies in El Granada. We featured teaching children how to write their names, learning shapes, learning colors, and counting to 10. we had Brenda there with us. She rotated into all 6 classes and rode the bus with our students who were 4. We got them ready for kindergarten. They learned how to stand in line, how to sit at centers. We had the Half Moon Bay Review come and do an article with us, or on our program. You saw there we had an in-house field trip with the firemen came, and we had reading every week from the library with Armando. We had pajama day at the end. And my biggest success was one of my students who was crying terribly the first 3 days, and the second day would not cooperate at all for assessment. By the end, passed all the assessments, and he was happy. He was completely happy and well adjusted. And that's the goal, that they're ready for kindergarten and aren't frightened.
Thank you.
Hi. In addition to those 100 little pre-K kids riding the bus with Brenda, who was phenomenal. Again, we've been so blessed to hire wonderful student aides. Francisco Valencia was the other student aide, both bilingual. I believe both of them were part of the KTK program. Francisco was for sure. All right, so Francisco was actually a graduate of the KTK program, and one of my students from Cunha. So we had another total enrollment at the highest was 375 students with 25 classes, 2 buses filled up every day, funded by the pre-K program and the migrant program, but we put everybody on the bus that we could possibly put on the bus. If there was space on the bus, we got the kids on the bus. Had outstanding support staff, Jackie Sullivan as secretary, Sylvia Valle is the liaison, Maggie Van Horbeck, who laid all the groundwork for the KTK program, Rosalva Segura and Tanya Goldberg, who were just phenomenal getting the migrant program. It was, as I told you earlier in the year, it was a different program this year because it was funded by lots of different sources. There were 11 pre-K classes. There were 4 K1 classes. Those were students who were first graders, but they didn't meet the standards yet going into first grade. So they were in 4 separate classes with some phenomenal teachers who were so excited because these little kids who hadn't gotten it in the school year, in the smaller classes with that extra attention, they were identifying all their letters. They were meeting a lot of the benchmarks, still had a ways to go, but just had a really positive experience. Then we had 7 classes funded by the migrant program and 1 Moonridge program. Their grant money gave us another class for Fairlawn View students. And then both El Granada and Fairlawn View funded classes. The fun class, or the sort of exceptional class this year, was Maria King taught a 5th grade transition to Cunha class. And those students, besides visiting Cunha, meeting with Mike Williams, they went to the Half Moon Bay Library to see how a library works. They also took a field trip to CSM. And they got a chance to see what it was going to take to get onto and be successful on a college campus. And I see those kids around Cunha now, and it's just so exciting to watch them melding into the middle school. In addition, we had 3 special day classes with 2 of our district teachers and 1 who was a former district teacher here. We had parent training. We had 2 parent trainings, one an orientation meeting where over 70 of the 100 families were represented at a night meeting. Challenge all those parents to be there in 2000, whatever the year it was I figured out they would be graduating from high school. We had a raising a reader training during the day where over 40 parents were there to find out how to read books with their kids. Then we also had a positive discipline in both English and Spanish. So Graciela Krabenschmitz did the raising a reader class simultaneously in Spanish and English because she didn't know how many people were going to be there. And then Edgar Villafana, he did from Star Vista. And many of the pre-K teachers did intake interviews with Star Vista to see what kind of support was out for the kids. Again, we had 22 student volunteers showing up every day, signing in like a real job, 10 to 8. They'd sign in. They would be there to help the teachers in the classroom, working with the kids, taking a break every day at an assigned time, signing out at the end of the day. Real positive experience for them. The bookmobile was there every week.
The highlight for me of the whole thing was every day at lunchtime we got to play kickball, and I was the pitcher. So it was just a lot of fun to see the kids. I wish we could show you the interviews of the kids who talked about how comfortable they felt in their experience of being stars. And I think being a star, as we said in the video, is that these are kids that sometimes struggle throughout the school year, and maybe there's not a lot of hard data points that we can say where the successes are, but to watch them in a classroom contributing and being the star. Mrs. King's class did a poetry unit, and the kids all read their poetry for us and posted their poetry, and just those kinds of experiences that they may not have during the school year, and then bring them a little bit closer to being ready to have those similar experiences in the school year. So a real powerful experience for me and for the students there. Thank you for making it possible.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I was the administrator for the secondary group. And one thing I'd like to point out real quick, I'm sure administrators are probably not supposed to acknowledge this, but this was a pretty easy summer for me. And the reason why is because of the staff that I was working with. 4 of those teachers on the list are either current department chairs or former department chairs, which made the classes run very smoothly. So it was a great experience for me to work with those staff members. And then the paraprofessionals, very experienced paraprofessionals that were working with our extended school year, so I was very, very thankful. Extended school year program, 6th through 12th grade, led by CUNY's Department Chair Arvin Lyons, with Debbie Germano, Helena Buck, and Christina Woodbridge. They did a variety of things, working on currency, knowledge of currency, teamwork development, reading and writing comprehension, and they did a couple field trips during the summertime. They went to a trip to Tamfran Mall where they were able to work with their knowledge of currency, doing some kind of window shopping, if you will, figuring out how much things would cost. I believe they took in a movie as well. The one thing I was disappointed I couldn't attend was the trip to Gherkin's Deli. But they enjoyed that as well. They were able to take the public transportation, go down there, experience that, purchasing again, and then coming back. So that was a great experience for the special ed group. For our language arts department, we had Debbie DeRossi, who is our current department chair at CUNY for language arts. Her focus was grammar, reading, writing, and interactive computer program, Lexia, that we do use at CUNY. Each day they start off with grammar worksheets, focusing on punctuation and parts of speech. These are things that a lot of our English learners have a lot of challenges with, so this was great that they had the opportunity to focus on this during summertime. They worked on a novel, reading aloud, reading silently, working on writing short essays, just working on these type of skills in an environment that they felt comfortable and safe. Sometimes some of these students that we're working with are in an environment where they have really high-level students and they kind of get overshadowed. This was an opportunity for students to feel comfortable and have some successes, which I'm hoping is going to carry on throughout this school year. The Lexia program, a lot of it's interactive spelling, grammar type program that they did. Our math intervention program was a ALEX program, which is a computer-based program. We do use it at CUNY as well. Miley Springer's one of our teachers. Kings Mountain, sorry, going blank for a second. So she worked with our students. They were working on an interactive program, doing different skill levels, starting at their ability level, and they increased through the program as they completed certain tasks. Miley would go through, check in with each student, which was great because she had one-on-one opportunities. These students, unfortunately, I wasn't able to print out a complete summary of the growth that the students had. They took a placement test in the beginning and then a test at the end to see what their growth was. I have individual scores that I could pass around and show you. Be more than happy to do that. I don't have a comprehensive breakdown for each grade, but it was a very successful program. Physical education, this was one thing I'm very excited we were able to offer this year for summer. We were able to break up the classes. Each student had math, had English, and also had a physical education class. This allowed the students to be excited about the day, able to go through math and not realize that they're going to spend 4 hours straight in a math class or 4 hours straight in an English class. The physical education, we were able to bring on board Elena Wong, who's a brand new PE teacher to CUNY, very fitness focused, components of physical education, cardiovascular, strength building, flexibility, and she's carrying all those things she implemented with these students into the current school year, which is very exciting. Aventa program. Very excited. Mandy's here. She's going to talk about the high school program, Aventa and the English that kind of tied together. But again, former department chair of the counseling department, so this made everything so much easier for me. So appreciate your time, and I'll leave it to Mandy.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, it's good to be back here. I'm very excited to be here. I took the last couple years off to have my baby girl and take care of her. And so if I'm not able to convince you of how phenomenal our summer school program was, I have some fascinating reading material for you. And it really was phenomenal. Our summer program, I did not take a break from doing summer school. So I've been here all 4 years doing the Aventa program over the summer. And I would really say that this summer is our most successful summer yet. Students completed 1,045 credits, which is up 90 credits from last year, despite a reduction in budget of 40%. So we run Aventa by seat, and students are doing online learning in a computer lab. Last year, well, not this previous summer, but the summer before that, we had 100 seats. This summer, we had 60 seats. Due to a reduction in our budget. So we had to get really creative and figure out how we were going to manage that and still meet our students' needs, and we definitely did that. One of the ways we did that was by making sure students felt the urgency of completing their courses. So we split up the summer into 2 semesters, and we said you have 2.5 weeks to do the courses that you need to do. Now, some of those students stayed with me. The students who were making progress were permitted to stay and continue completing courses. Other students, maybe the ones that just completed one course, I didn't feel like they were putting enough effort into it. I pulled another student in. So I definitely have to give a shout out to Jackie Sullivan, who was my secretary over the summer, who was phenomenal, as she is every summer. She was constantly making calls to our students and families, as was Mike Williams, who was an excellent administrator and very much supported our program, and we could not have been this successful without them, so thank you. So we had students constantly rotating in and out as needed, and our kids were well taken care of. I think part of our summer program is really important to our kids, not just because they're recovering credits, but because they need a safe place and a person to have a contact with over the summer. The advantage of being a counselor over the summer is that I can provide counseling services to students. A lot of academic advising, but also a lot of social emotional counseling, and I'm very happy that, that our school district values that, and that I'm able to provide that to our kids over the summer because they really need it. Another thing is that a lot of our kids don't have food over the summer, and I would like to say thank you very much to Food Services this year because it was the best it has ever been. There was no stigma about grabbing food. It was in an open location, and a lot of our kids were taking food home for their brothers and sisters to eat. So thank you for providing that opportunity to our students as well. I would like to also speak about Mr. Andy Boyson, who is our English teacher. English in Aventa is extremely difficult to accomplish in a 2.5 week period. As a matter of fact, it is impossible. So I strategized with Ms. Silvestri the previous year and talked about how we could offer English in an alternative way. And we came up with Mr. Boyson, who is, Mr. Boyson will do it. Mr. Boyson is phenomenal with working with students across all levels, but primarily these kids needed English credit recovery. Kids that were in the English program were doing so for credit recovery only, while kids that were in Aventa were doing so for credit recovery, as well as perhaps increasing their grades for UC A through G college eligibility. So Mr. Boyson served 59 students. All students received credits, and that was more of a traditional classroom. Those kids came to school for 4 hours a day. That's a lot of English to sit through in one day, and pretty much all of them pulled it off. So definitely kudos to them, and thank you to Mr. Boyson for doing that. I would just like to say that I really appreciate that you continue and that we continue to support our summer school program. I have to say that definitely speaking as a counselor, we would not have the graduation rates that we have. We would not have the college eligibility and the college participation rates, acceptance rates that we do without summer school. It is absolutely vital to our success. So thank you.
So just a little closure. I would say for the middle school and working with Mandy and the high school students, it was an overall success. You can see the numbers from the students. The high school for the credit recovery, As I said, if you'd like to see some of the test scores for our students, the CUNY students, be more than happy to show. A lot of them had a lot of growth, which was great. And then the last thing, as Mandy touched on, the food service was amazing. Sandra organized everything to make sure we had snacks in the morning, healthy snacks, crackers, fruit, cereal. There was a warm breakfast every morning for the students, and then lunchtime. They all had a healthy, warm lunch for them to eat, which I think helps get everyone through the day. Not every student has a breakfast when they come to school. Not every student has the same home environment. So giving them that opportunity to have that snack helps them get through that time. And then also having the lunch provided for them helps them continue throughout the day and have a happy experience when they're coming to school, even though it's during summertime. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, everybody.
Any questions for the group? I just want to thank the two teachers that came this evening to share about their work over the summer, and also Mike and Mandy.
Any further questions for the board? Or?
I was just a comment.
Okay.
Really am proud of the work that we do as a community and the summer program, and so thank you very much for your obviously passion and hard work.
Thank you. Brings us on to item 11B, receive report on 2012-2013 disciplinary strategies and their effect on student learning. Is it over here?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And before we begin our presentation, I'd just like to give a little shout out to a new father in the room. And amidst preparing this report, let's hear it from Mr. Mike Williams. He named his son John Francis after, no, it's Bryson. So congratulations, Mike, and bravo to you. So we are presenting this evening a governing board report. And you'll see on the following slide, this is actually embedded within Board Policy 5144. And if you'll notice, it's not a typo up there. This is actually, per the board policy, a report on the preceding school year, discipline strategies and their effect on student learning in the school. I think it's important to know, as you can see, we do have 2 board policies and 3 administrative regulations that in detail outline the discipline policies and procedures, also in depth and really marrying the California Education Code regarding suspensions and expulsions. And it's good to know that we have board policies in place to guide us through that process. The discipline strategies in the board policy also include strategies that assist us not only in correctional behavior, but also in mentoring and coaching as well. And you'll see, and I'm not going to read them all through word for word, but discipline, what is the point of discipline? Is it strictly punitive? Sometimes in my household growing up it was, but really it's not intended to be punitive only in consequences. It's really meant to modify behavior in a supportive, nurturing learning environment. And I think you're going to hear from administrators this evening at the elementary level, the middle school level, the high school level, the continuation high school level, great detail with regards to what's going on at each individual site. We've always mentioned, especially within our anti-bullying plan, the significance of conferencing with parents. And that's something not to be forgotten. Parents are partners in the process, and we, as often as possible, involve them in the process. Anytime you talk about recess restriction, you catch my eye, because I loved recess. But the withholding of recess is always a sensitive topic, especially for that healthy food that our food service department continues to build within our district, but also sensitivity towards the wellness policy that's in place that really advocates for students to have exercise during recess time. Community service is mentioned, alternative ed as well, and reassignment, if you will, for students. Suspension and expulsion are always listed as potential disciplinary measures. As you may be aware, we transitioned from SASE XP system, a student database system, to Infinite Campus. And it's really important, I believe, to know that administrators throughout the district are documenting behavior within our Infinite Campus system. And certainly at the secondary level, it's important to know, we've got 3 administrators at the high school, 2 at Cunha, so that a student is not coming in and, oh, this is my first time, and administration can pull up the database and see documentation of previous discipline. And in that light, just know that discipline should always be progressive in that capacity.
Is this at the elementary level as well, elementary, middle?
It is available to elementary administrators, and quite frankly, over the years, we're getting better at the elementary level of documenting discipline within the system. And really kind of going back to a conference that Dr. Rourke and I attended, the Newtown, that was hosted by Jackie Spear. And in some capacity in education, we've always said, John Corey gets a fresh start as a 6th grader at Cunha or in the 9th grade year. And while a part of me still wants to cling on to that, it's really important that we may need to provide interventions for John on the first day of school within the first period, because he may end up in the office. In our contact logs as well, as you'll notice, we document contacts with parents and the number of times that parents have been communicated and what they told us they were going to do to help us modify the behavior. So I think it's important to see the behavior management log, and it's also noted up there that a potential consequence is none, depending on the situation. So there's a whole spectrum of consequences that you can see listed within the behavior log. Importantly as well, and really more so at Cunha and the high school, we have counseling logs. And I think it's important to know when students are coming in, and meeting with counselors, that oftentimes that's an intervention, to discipline. And I think one thing we came away from the Newtown conference, again hosted by Jackie Spear, was the emphasis on mental health services. What are we doing, just never mind the punitive, the detentions, the suspensions, what are we really doing with regards to counseling? And you can see detailed information that's all hopefully appropriately blocked out, the intense interventions that are going on throughout our school district. This is a high school notation, but just to know that information is available as well. The suspension report, it's a report we've reviewed before, but I think to know as well, police report is also noted, and that's something we continue to use with our rapport with Deputy Chase, the Sheriff's Department. I know that he was very busy on the first day of school, working with us in an intervention capacity, in a variety of different capacities. And also to note as well on the suspension form in the upper right-hand corner, special education students. There is an entire board policy, administrative regulation for special education students, so it's important to know that while they are still, for the most part, subject to the same disciplinary consequences, we need to be mindful of students with disabilities as well. And then you can see this is actually taken from the CalPads, and this lists school by school, total number of students, total number of offenses, suspensions, expulsions, in-house suspensions as well, and that's detailed. I started to get really into the detail of the comparison of suspensions in the district versus the county, the state, and then my PowerPoint went from like 20 slides to about 100. And that's why I'm really focusing this evening to hear from the site administrators regarding discipline strategies and the effect on learning. But I wanted to provide that information for you.
John, what is CalPad?
That's the statewide reporting system. I don't know what it actually stands for.
For discipline?
No, it's all data. It's the official recording. See, that's now all of the discipline and demographics recording.
And then you can see our expulsion data that is available for your review as well over the last few years. You can also see our suspension data reported out accordingly as well. It's really not a data presentation, but I definitely wanted you to see it and be aware of it. We're going to really transition right now to our administrative team. You're going to hear from Joy Darnell regarding elementary. You're going to hear from Mike Williams. You're going to hear from Allison, and you'll also hear from Raj as well. So at this point, I'd like to invite up Joy. I'm not sure if Spot the puppet is in the house or not this evening.
Thank you. So As an elementary principal and representing the elementary teams, I would like to begin with the ABCs of discipline, which in cognitive behavioral theory stands for the antecedent, behavior, and consequence. And when we think about discipline, as John Corey had said, modification of behavior, we have to think about these three aspects of behavior modification. So behavior can be either positive or negative. There's other ways to say it: desired, undesired, adverse might be another word that you might see in this presentation. And we have different types of consequences depending on the what and the how of what the behavior is. So consequences for desired behaviors that we have at our school sites include group recognition, individual recognition, peer recognition, and also the gradual release of positive reinforcement. At a school-wide level, this might look like positive behavior referrals or life skill types of tickets that you might see. At the classroom level, teachers use different types of recognition with students. Some of that recognition could be, for example, having lunch in the classroom with a teacher. It could be just recognition by putting work up, saying you did a really great job. So there's a lot of different ways that we can recognize positive behaviors, and I think that understanding that positive behavior recognition is part of discipline is an important way that we try to reinforce the good things that students are already doing. When we think about the consequences for undesired behaviors, they might include verbal warnings, age-appropriate timeouts, phone calls or conferences with the family, progressive loss of privileges, in-house suspension, and expulsion. And I know that at the different sites, similar to how consequences for desired behaviors might look different in different places, the consequences for undesired behaviors also looks different, especially when you look at the different grade levels that students are in. So an appropriate undesired or consequences for undesired behavior would look different in a kindergarten classroom as it would in a fifth grade, than it would in a fifth grade classroom. So when we think about the behaviors, positive behaviors and undesired behaviors, we think about the consequences which address the how and the what of what the behavior was. This student did this in this way, and therefore he has this consequence. When we think about the antecedents, that's asking the question why. Why did the student actually do this? And while one person may hit another student, the person who does that the next day might have hit the student for another student for a totally different reason. And so we as administrators have to ask ourselves, why did this behavior actually happen? And what can we do about those the antecedents, the things that happened before the behavior, and address those as well as the consequences. So that includes looking at school-wide structures. So maybe the student didn't realize that hitting was actually inappropriate. Maybe the student didn't realize that running in the cafeteria is not appropriate. So making sure that rules are stated really explicitly, developing, for example, the 3 big school rules at the different sites, having homework club, dolphin club, and breakfast club. Was the student hungry? Looking at regular analysis of data. So for example, attendance and behavior patterns. One of the interesting things that I noticed last year, at 12 o'clock, it was a magic hour in kindergarten, 10 minutes before dismissal, and for some reason, there were things that would happen between 12 and 12:10. And so when we saw this pattern happening, it came to a conversation of what are things that we can do maybe during this transition time when students are about to be released for us to support their behavior so that they are able to be more successful in that situation. There's also other on-site opportunities, for example, individual counseling and social groups, as well as community service opportunities like book buddies and leadership clubs, which allow students to gain access to ways of improving their behavior through developing social networks with other students and adults in positive ways. There are also different ways that we partner with families. So when we call and have to make that call after some incident happens, we also make calls when good things happen. We may decide that we have to go through a longer process of communicating with the families, and that might look like the student study team process, which we call SSTs. It might be a 504 process or an IEP developing some type of individualized education program for the students in conjunction with the teachers as well as the parents and the student to figure out how we can partner together through time so that we can provide successful environments for the kids. And then the next piece we also have as a way to address antecedents are social emotional learning opportunities. And one of One of the things that we were able to pilot last year, because the board was very supportive in this, was starting Second Step as a social emotional curriculum, which was piloted at all of the elementary school sites, as well as the Kindness Campaign and other ways that we've been working on that at our school sites. This year, my teachers have been talking to me about how effective Second Step was for that short time that it was piloted last year. The students know how to use the different symbols of body still, listening, eyes watching, and those ways of helping students deal with problems allows them to have better behavior as well. So when we work together as a team, and we look at the behavior, we come up with appropriate consequences, and we also address the antecedents. We're able to look at students in a more complete whole child way. We're able to team together to support students, and it has positive effects on student learning, including creating a safer and more orderly environment, allowing students to have more time at school and more time in class, reducing absences, reducing tardies. And when they are in class, it allows students to have more productive time on task and at work. We also, through this process, develop stronger partnerships with families. And these things are also part of the correlates of effective schools. And these help to contribute to making better learning environments for the students, as well as strengthening our school system as we move forward. So thank you. And I'm now going to introduce Mike Williams from Cunha.
Good evening again. So I'm here representing Cunha. Kind of focus on some of the things we're trying to implement this year that's different than what we've done in the past. One thing that I'm extremely excited about is, well, I'm sad that Raj left us and is over at Pillarcitos, but with him moving over to Pillarcitos, we were able to work together to form Coyote Society. He'll talk about more of his end of it. But basically what that is during our collaboration day on Tuesdays, members of Pillarcitos are coming over to Cunha, meeting with some of our struggling students and discussing choices they made when they were at middle school. Better choices, things they could have done that could have helped them be more successful as they get older in life. So far they've had 2 meetings, and we're going to continue out through the year. Checked in with the Cunha students, and they're willing to go. We're trying to grow the group a little bit. They seem like they enjoy the group. They enjoy working with the students. That's facilitated by Deputy Chase. But I think it's a positive experience for the students to see where they could go if they continue down a certain path and get advice from a student who's a little bit older rather than another adult who I'm sure sometimes we sound like the Charlie Brown teacher talking to them. So they have the opportunity to hear from someone that they can actually relate to.
Mike, how are the middle schoolers who are in the Coyote Society identified? Has there been a
so that's basically,
or just
well, it was a lot of it was previous discipline issues,
okay.
And that was kind of what happened was Deputy Chase came to me, Mr. Betcher came to me, and I kind of looked at students, some of them who were kids that were struggling that went through summer school as well, struggling academically and with behaviors, and we thought this would be a great mentor group just to meet with. So it was basically me looking at their discipline file and academics. And seeing which groups would fit in. Then we had to decide, some students aren't going to work well with other students, so it's not worth putting 2 students that are just going to, ruin the group. So it was kind of that was how we developed it. Yeah. The other one we're working on is we do have optional homework club at Cunha. We're trying to turn our detention into more of a mandatory homework club. We've looked at kind of the numbers of the students who are attending detention. And a lot of them are also struggling in school. So instead of just having them sit inside the classroom, stare at the wall, copy down dictionary, we're going to work on getting them opportunities to work on their assignments, their homework that due. We have a certified teacher that's running our detention mandatory homework club. So they'll have that opportunity, someone to speak with, someone to meet with, to work on those skills. So that's being productive, not just taking the time away, but a productive hour. One thing that's new, it hasn't got off the ground yet, but I'm working with Rusty and Rocky Rayner on doing a mandatory surf. There's a program down, I believe it was Santa Cruz where it started, and basically kids that are struggling, variety of issues, discipline, instead of going one of those discipline issues that are borderline suspension or probably typically would earn a long time in after school attention, We've given them an option, okay? They have 6 a.m. surf practice in the morning. Rocky's going to provide wetsuits, surfboards, everything they need, and supervision. And what they did notice in Santa Cruz when they did this program was that the students actually got into surfing and enjoyed it, and that kind of changed their world a little bit. They started focusing on productive things. They have mentors. It also gets them into the Boys and Girls Club where they have the opportunity to work with those mentors that work there, like Caitlin Giacomino. So that's one thing that we're really going to start pushing with the efforts, the support of Rocky Rayner. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is Mr. Jimenez also with the soccer club looking at participating in that fashion?
We haven't discussed doing something like a mandatory participation. I know Geronimo does with his Piranhas group. They do participate with Boys and Girls Club. So most of those students do attend the power hour that they hold through the Boys and Girls Club right after school. That is something that we could potentially look into. The reason why we're focusing on surfing, is something that's Rocky. I'll give him the credit. He's the one that was very passionate about it. He came and spoke with myself and Lalo about pushing this program. So of course we need parent permission to participate in this, which could be a hurdle, but I think it's a hurdle that's worth attempting. So as that progresses and hopefully have some participants, I'll be more than happy to share the results of how that program's working. But we can definitely talk to Geronimo about possibly tying that into the soccer program as well, since it's so popular with the new facility that we have.
I only bring it up because I sat with Rocky and I sat with Geronimo and had this conversation a year ago about that. So I was just, two different deflection points.
Yeah, the only conversation that I specifically had is about the surf. The other program we're working on is we started a little bit last year, is kind of having mentor groups during lunchtime. Catherine Weber and Robin Olmsted are going to be working on putting groups together, whether it's a girls group, girls that are struggling, girls that have some emotional issues, having opportunities for them to meet with the counselor in a safe environment to talk with. We've had guide groups just talk about what's going on in their life in a safe environment. Last year, we had County Mental Health came and spoke on a weekly basis to one of our classes, which I'm hoping to continue with them if we can make sure that we get the appropriate mentor to come from County Mental Health. And one thing that I think is the big focus and which helps create a positive climate is our different positive reinforcements we have at Cunha. The different middle schools that I've worked at, I truly, strongly believe we have a spirit program that no one else can compete with. The activities that are going on during lunch, whether it's incorporating it just within the spirit classes or grade level, it's just amazing to see the involvement that the students have. And when they're being active, they're not doing anything negative. And I think getting involved and enjoying and wanting to be part of your school gives you a different outlook of education and the school as a whole in general. We have little incentives like Cub cards. If a student's doing something positive on the campus, a teacher or other staff member will give them a Cub card, just acknowledging, hey, you know what, you picked up that piece of trash that was just hanging there. No one told you to do it, you just did it because you knew it was the right thing to do. We have Student of the Week, Student of the Month, where we acknowledge students who are doing well. And we also have recognition assemblies twice a year. Students that are doing the right thing, demonstrating positive behavior, it doesn't affect academics, but attendance at school. We give them a treat. We've had a variety of different things, whether it was the Wildlife Associates come and kind of do a presentation. We had artists come talk about bullying and making positive choices, but he also did a 10-minute mural with chalk. We actually have the painting hanging, or chalk, I don't know what you would actually call it, but it's hanging in our library. If we ever have a board meeting in the library again, you can definitely, or you just want to stop by, I'd be more happy to show you. But it's a positive experience for students, something for them to look forward to, something to strive them to make positive choices. So that's kind of what we're doing that's a little bit different, and we do a lot of the different things like Joy Title, SSTs and 504s to help with that process, but these are kind of the things that we're really trying to focus on this year to help with discipline. And then I'd like to introduce Allison Silvestri to talk about the high school.
Thank you. Forgot about me. Good evening. So I'm sure you enjoyed our 364-page WASC report, of which Chapter 1 included a lot of data. And Jarrett really took the lead on presenting data that's not typically found in a WASC report. I did pull this from the report to show again tonight. What I'm most proud of is the amount of time and energy we've spent to maintain very high standards for our students. And when I arrived at Half Moon Bay High School 5 years ago, I think one of the biggest challenges we faced was just getting students to class on time. And we took something as small as tardies, which were impacting teaching and learning time and the ability for our teachers to begin promptly and have uninterrupted time and teaching time and the preservation of instruction. And as a community, we really came together and enforced lockouts. That, I believe, has contributed, in addition to a focus on truancy, on having students coming to school every day, coming on time, to the increase in our attendance rate at the high school. We've partnered closely, worked with the counselors, with parents, with local law enforcement and our SRO. And again, our belief is that if students are in classes, obviously we have a better chance of making sure that they academically succeed at the high school level. We have this year increased our attendance to date by 0.3% from last year. We are focused again greatly on attendance rates. As we know, students who are attending often do better academically. They're not missing instruction. However, our senior class has been on a steady decline for the last 3 years, and they are down by 0.3% themselves. So we are really hoping that board policy can change to increase the expectations for our seniors who have a lot at stake and a lot of positive activities at the end of the year that they love to enjoy. So we'd like them to attend 92% of the year in order to enjoy all of those fun activities at the end of the year. Our seniors have it down to science, down to the mathematics of how many classes they can miss. So they are still giving us a slight run for our money. I believe that, and you've heard much about Challenge Day, and our students have really taken the reins. Tonight at School Site Council, which Brenda sits on, and spoke about, a lot of the talk was about Challenge Day and the positive impact that it's had on our school climate and culture. And our focus on recognizing positive behaviors, our Renaissance and recognition programs that are now an institution at the high school, and asking students really to be the change that they want to see in the world, asking them to start clubs and activities, to get involved, because we know when students are involved in sports, theater, community service, that they often perform better in school, having less time to be doing things that aren't so positive. So some of our programs, we have a quarterly Outstanding Cougar Award Luncheon where teachers select and recognize students based on our ESLERs, our expected school-wide learning results. And we changed those and adopted new ones, I believe it was 2 years ago. And the ACE shout-outs are ACE Cougars. That's our acronym for our ESLERs, is really alive on campus. And we recognize students for their academic excellence, their citizenship, and their excellence in communication. We do have positive referrals. Teachers can submit department awards. I do weekly Cougar ACE shout-outs, which the students seem to like. They always want to see if they'll make the weekly edition of my ACE shout-outs. Departments have come up with their own department awards, team awards. We've increased our perpetual awards. I'm not sure if you've seen our new and improved recognition hallway in the front office. It's gorgeous. It's a great way to greet our guests. And we have 3 plaques that are still in the making. And of course, we've had a lot of change to our policies and procedures. We are actually this year, at this point, have reduced from 2011-12, we had 26 suspensions on record to date. Last year we had 23. This year we've had 3 suspensions to date in our academic year. So I'm really proud. I'm proud at the improvement of school climate and culture. I am proud of the fact that we respect each other. We've created a positive school climate and culture. I've asked people, what are we doing? Besides doing lower level interventions, doing a lot of counseling, short detentions, Saturday school campus beautification projects seem to be a great deterrent, believe it or not. But we're spending a lot of time working with families, with counselors, with teachers, with each other to problem solve. and we really have seen data-proven a decrease in adverse and negative behaviors that are impacting students' attendance as well. So very proud, and anecdotally, I don't know if any of you are at back to school night, you know Tony was, but one of the ASB presidents said, Ms. Silvestri, I want to talk to you about the speech. And she said, I really want to talk about our change in school climate and culture over the last 4 years. She said, I want to talk about WASC and our term accreditation of 6 years. So it's great that students are talking about the changes that they've seen. So it's anecdotal, but it's really true that a positive climate and culture is taking place on our campus. So where are we now?
So, quick question. You
Sure.
made a reference to policy back on the previous slide. Does that comment in terms of you want to see the requirement for seniors' attendance raised at
I
some point
do.
in the future?
I would really like to see the board policy adjusted. We are below what most schools in our area are. We've done some research, and we actually expect about 7% less than most schools that we've looked at throughout the state of California. So I'm hoping to see an increase, and I know that students will meet it. Not worried about that.
Thanks, Allison.
Allison, the problem that I'm dealing with where I teach, and I'm curious how you've been successful at it. Electronic devices. What is our policy at the high school with electronic devices on the campus and in the classroom?
Very consistent. It's been simple and it's been implemented, I think, very well. And actually this year we've upped the ante to really enforce passing period time without electronics. And students, I'm not seeing them in their hands as much at all. So we have a very simple policy. First time it's taken, student serves their detention, we return it to the student and allow the student to take full responsibility. Second time it's 2 detentions after school, and they must serve any other detentions they may have. And then we return it to the parent, so we have the opportunity to explain our policy to the parent. Third time it's Saturday school. We don't run Saturday school every Saturday, we run about every 3 weeks. So it's really horrible that Monday after Saturday school when the student has their phone taken away for the 3rd time and they don't have it for the next 3 to 4 weeks. At which point we return it after Saturday school, 4 hours of campus beautification to the parent again, and with the reminder that the next time it will be confiscated for the year or the remainder of the academic year, and they'll serve a 1-day suspension out of school. But we've not had too many challenges. They usually get it after the first time because they don't know what to do, as it's an extension of their appendages. So they're very lost without that phone. So typically, really after the first time, we have very few 2nd or 3rd time offenders. And we've just been very consistent with our policy. Teachers, campus security, or administrators, we all implement the rules, I think, on a really fair and consistent and constant basis. So students, they get it, especially when they don't have it that one night. It's enough to cure anybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like I said, we've implemented it consistently, and I think it's been over the years well done. And again, now at passing periods, they can't have it either. So, and we're actually in talks with CUNA to really align our policies better. It's interesting that I think CUNA has some more strict policies, and then they come to the high school, and for whatever reason, we allow more privileges and freedom, which there should be. At some level, there should be more ownership, but we've talked, and we're going to meet with CUNA and really look at aligning our handbooks and aligning our policies to just help reinforce the behaviors that we want to see across our unified district. I don't know if I summarized the rest of that slide. I'm sorry. Sorry, just real quick in case. I think I've mentioned most of this, but I just wanted to, Challenge Day really has been great. It brings together community members and students, adults and our youth to come, and we actually had students from CUNA come up this fall. It was seamless. They did really well in the program. And there's so much community hype that we have people looking right now to secure more funding so we can host a second one this year. We had 170 students apply for Challenge Day, and unfortunately we were only able to serve 125. So we really would like to offer it to more students. Our campus is safe. Our campus has a great vibe. Homecoming is coming up, so you'll get to see a lot of school spirit. And I'm just pleased with the data that we've been able to produce, with really being constant and consistent and fair in our practices as we raise up our young men and women to be amazing and socially responsible citizens. So unless there are questions, I'm going to have Raj come and speak to you about his efforts at Pillarcitos and the changes that he's making, which are amazing.
Only a clothing question. Where's the orange?
It's tomorrow.
Always have a little bit. I know.
I can't say.
And it's funny, I actually had a parent say to me, "Where's your orange?" And I said, I was at a different school today for a professional development with Agile Minds, and every time I seem to go out into the other part of the world, then I get comments about Halloween. So I thought I was going to take the day off from those comments when I was over the hill and they don't get it over there. So I'll be in my orange and black. I got my outfit ready for tomorrow.
Doctors.
Thanks.
Doctors tomorrow.
Doctors. Theme for tomorrow is doctors. I will be in orange and black. Okay. Raj is here with a presentation from Pillarcitos. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Is it the lucky ticket? Am I winning something?
I recognize that person.
Good evening, everyone. Raj Betcher, Principal Pillarcitos. So I want to focus on one incentive program first, and then I'll talk a little bit about the collaboration with Cunha Intermediate at the end. This year, we've established an incentive program. I heard this quote a long time ago from Mother Teresa, and it said something to the effect that if you ever have an anti-war rally, don't invite me. But if you have a peace rally, I'll be there. And so what I took from that is that if we focus on the things that we want as much as we can and disregard the things that we don't want as much as we can, maybe those same behaviors that we desire, those outcomes that we desire is what we'll receive. So, and there is substantial research that shows that incentive and reward programs are effective in getting behaviors that support academic success. The research is out there. So let me tell you a little bit about the program and then open it up to questions and talk about a few other things we're doing at Pillarcitos. Each period that a student arrives on time, stays the whole period, has a positive attitude, actively participates, and acts with good behavior, he or she receives 1 Pillarcitos pound. So in a week, there's 20 periods, and so at the end of the week, they can get 20 Pillarcitos pounds for perfect attendance and behavior. The teachers get a number of Pillarcitos pounds at the beginning of the week to give out for winning academic challenges, for helping a student, or helping a staff member. And so by the end of the week, they could, at max, get between 20 and 25 Pillarcitos pounds. Now, right now, each Pillarcitos pound is approximately worth $1 US. And what we have on campus is a store. It's starting off with humble beginnings, but I have, big hopes for it. So our store is filled with snacks, school supplies, gift certificates, merchandise. I'll tell you about one. I got 5 gift certificates today from Hair, Mind, and Body, or it's on Main Street. Mind and Body. It's a salon, and there's like a $170 haircut and coloring, an acupuncture for $50. Yeah, some real cool stuff. The lady there gave 5 gift certificates, and they're all in the range of like $50 to $70. And so right now, each Pillarcitos pound is approximately $1. But I told them that as the year goes on and we print more currency, the value of the pound will go down. And I said, this is kind of an experiential lesson in inflation. Yeah. So where I see this going is to have what I would like to set up is a store, and almost, maybe even turn the pounds into like a credit card system where you can add money to their credit card and take away, and then maybe have like an arcade or just whatever the merchandise is, comic books, earbuds, just stuff that they they like, that's good for them, is not going to hurt anybody, and they're very excited about it. They're into it. There's like other intangibles, or I should say not intangibles, but things that don't cost money. For instance, I have my big leather principal chair, and so for £1 they can sit in my chair for the period. And there's little stuff like that as well. Let's see. Right now I'm in the process of going to every business in the community, and we've sent letters to almost every business in the coast side and asking for their help, whether it be monies or gift certificates or merchandise. And slowly but surely, people, when they hear about it, I'm getting emails and phone calls, hey, I'd like to help, I'd like to donate, I can do this, I can do that, and so I have high hopes that the program will just grow. So that's about it there. Let's see.
Are the kids excited about the program?
Yes, they're very excited. They're counting their pounds. They're like collecting them. There's different heroes from around the world. And then later on, I want to, make like one with one of their faces, and only distribute one within circulation and see if it can, they can start collecting it. And there's a lot of things you can do with this. Yeah. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Well, I have $100.
Okay.
And I'd like to donate if you would make the board member additions to the monetary currency. I think,
all right, I like that. I like that.
With the images of the board members on there.
Okay.
And I'll pony up for that form of tapering.
You got yourself a deal. Now, how do I?
You can just rip them off the website.
Okay. The pictures are on the website? Oh, it's on. It's on, man. Consider it done. What's that?
No fair editing.
Not at all. And I would, if I would only do that if every board member was okay.
I was going to say, I defer to each of my colleagues to provide a suitable photo that they feel is right up there with Mother Teresa.
I have Einstein.
They're all
No, so
different.
you will be-
They're all different. Free to call.
Oh, I like that.
Yes.
What was I saying?
And I'm a big fan of Mike's sense of style. I like the all black, man. Very nice.
Butter me up.
That's right. And it's Pilarcitos High School.
Oh, it's cash.
Okay. Yes, we do. Let's see. Oh, one last thing. Just the partnership with Cunha and the Coyote Society. I know that when the students go to Cunha and talk to these individuals, that in many ways it's just as therapeutic to them as it is to the Cunha students. And Deputy Sean Chase, he has a good way of kind of pumping them up that they're helping other people and mentoring other people, but at the same time he slips in mentoring of his own. And so I feel very good about that program as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
And really just in closure, I don't know who said, Henry Ford or someone, surround yourself with great people. And certainly our administrative team, kudos to them. Also kudos to Rosie Acosta, who used to work up at Fairlawn View, for helping put together the slideshow this evening, with threats of disciplinary action if they didn't get everything in on time, but also with a lot of support to put together this presentation. Busy people, but prioritizing the time, not only to fulfill the board goal, but really to highlight a lot of positive cultural things that are going on in our district. And I know when I think Tony shared, we have a report to make in October, and I said, gosh, I thought I changed that shall to may do a report to the board, but I'm really glad that it is shall, and look forward to the presentation next year as well.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Yes.
Brings us to item 11E, which is our report on the 2012-2013 unaudited actuals financial report. Yeah, I know.
Good evening. Maybe we can get some of those pounds to pay some of our bills. Do some of that. I did give you an additional copy of the slide presentation along with a pink copy of Form 01 from the big unaudited actuals report. The first page of the pink packet, there are some numbers that have changed since the giving of the report about a week ago. I don't have of the pink copies, but I do have a copy of the slides if you guys need those.
Tom, you want one?
Oh, the slides, yeah, you got one of those?
Yeah.
Okay. What are the unaudited actuals? The unaudited actuals are a snapshot of what happened during that previous fiscal year that is required by the superintendent's office at the state level, and it's a capture of all of our financial statements throughout the year. The county is responsible for verifying the information, and it is required also by our AB 1200, which was enacted to make sure that school districts are preparing, planning, and meeting our financial obligations. Below is a timeline of our financial statements reporting that occurred during a fiscal year. We actually run financial statements for 2 years at a time. The timeline example shows that the estimated actuals are presented with the budget in 12/13, which was the same time that the budget was presented for 13/14 back in June. And then in September is when the unaudited actuals is supposed to be presented. In December, we have the audit report for 12/13, which is the same time that we are reporting on the first interim for 13/14. So as you can see that we run 2 fiscal for financial reportings within the same year. Always the past year and then the future year that we are currently in. This is a summary of the SACS reporting, which is the standard account code structure, which is the software that we use to communicate our financials to the state to receive our funding for grants and actually all of our funding. I included this, and although it's small, so I want us to kind of concentrate on the summary condensed version. These numbers are rounded up. Well, actually, they're just rounded, so we can kind of just give it a glance. But we're going to add in another slide here, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. Basically, we have the estimated actuals, and then I gave you a comparison for the unaudited actuals. The estimated actuals occurred back in June when the budget was presented. So that's an estimated snapshot of where they think we will be at the end of the fiscal. Then as the books get closed and those processes happen, we arrive at the unaudited actuals. So there's not too much of a difference here. Some of the differences do occur, though, as our revenues get tied up and we figure out what we're actually receiving and our annual ADA report is reported. We actually start to see some changes. Our expenditures really don't change for certificated and classified and benefits. Those usually remain the same. The supply services here, from estimated actuals to unaudited actuals, you can see that there is a significant difference there. So we did not meet the expenditures that we had thought we were for supplies and services.
I have a question.
Yes.
Where do we see the parcel tax revenue?
So the parcel tax revenue is a part of our total revenue limit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all kind of thrown into one pot.
Is it within the category of revenue limit is where that?
Yes,
Okay.
under the revenues.
$19,500,000.
No, that's actually our property tax. It's under the other local revenues.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So initially, before the change was made, as we were still closing the books and analyzing some of the data, on the excess deficiency line, it was projected at estimated actuals that our total would be a deficiency of 736 for 12-13. It was not 736. At the time that this report was prepared, it was showing as a 956, which just didn't ring right to me because it was so different, such a swing. So after working with the county and looking at some numbers more closely, that number has been revised, which we will go ahead and look at here. I know this is a little bit more smaller. So the numbers that I would like us to concentrate on are the revenues, which have slightly changed. It's actually gone down just about, well, a couple $1,000. Actually, no, not that much. About $1,000. And then the excess deficiency that was the 956 is now the 319. The difference in that was the EPA. So the EPA had been received in our revenue limit, and then it was also instructed to be accrued by the county, and the timing was a little off. So then once that got pulled out, we're able to see what our true numbers are. So
Define EPA.
the Education Protection Act, that was the Prop 30 money that we all voted on. Yay for that for us, and we'll continue to get that into LCFF as well. So our reserve, our 3% mandatory reserve is just a little over $854,000, and that doesn't change much. It changed like I think $500 from what our reserve was with the previous numbers. I also included a little spot in there for the local control funding reserve. And that's for the new LCFF funding formula that we are now moving towards in 13-14 and as we move on. I'd like us to start to think about putting some money in that reserve. It has been highly recommended because as we transfer over from a basic aid district to the LCFF formula, we could possibly have some cash issues, so we just need to make sure that we have that cash in there to help us through those times. Because we're unsure on what the state's going to do as far as that funding goes as of right now.
Are you saying that they may ask for a higher reserve percentage? Or
They may come out with a completely separate reserve. So you have your 3%, and then they are trying to, I think, to push for, it's recommended by school services and FCMAT as of right now. They may not come with actual legislation that says we have to have a higher reserve than 3%, which is our requirement. But it's definitely a good fiscal practice to make sure we have the cash.
Talking about a doubling or what?
They haven't suggested yet. My recommendation would be at least 10%. And we'll get into a lot of that during first interim. So I just wanted to kind of plug that as we move forward into this current year. First interim will cover, it'll be all about LCFF and how that affects our district and where our funding is and where our projections will be in the future. So that, just to recap, that 956 did go down to 319, which is still great for us. We did great this year. Next year's still projecting to be a deficit year, and our years out are still projected to be deficit spending. So we need to try to work on that. And my final thoughts. Again, unaudited actuals is just a snapshot in time. As we can see, I mean, just those changes and looking at it from one week to a different week, these numbers can change because as revenue comes in and our expenditures go out. And then also, I've only been here for a month, but it is just really evident to me that, even though all these districts have been faced with these financial challenges over the past several years that, Cabrillo has done such a wonderful job in making sure that we still put our students first and, achieving our goals and really just keep moving upward even though we're just so stagnant with funding and really negative funding. So I just wanted to say kudos to the district for doing that. So I can see that just from being here a month, for sure. So thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you, Crystal. Any questions from the board?
No, I don't, not at this time.
Okay, it brings us to communications. Board members, we have volunteers. Side or the other?
Yeah, I had the pleasure of painting a little bit of a mural at El Granada Elementary. I appreciated, is Natalie still here?
Yep.
Appreciated her reaching out and extending that invitation. The mural's beautiful. And beautiful.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah, let's see what's happening. We actually hosted our house a welcome to all the Amity scholars that are at Hatch, and Mr. Ward attended, and a bunch of families, and it was wonderful to meet all of the Amities. I think it's continue a unique experience to bring not just the language, but the culture of these young people from all different countries to help our kids, and I'm excited that it's both in the English and in the immersion program. I think it's a nice step forward, and I was glad to be part of that. So.
And there's a variety of countries that they're from this year.
Yes,
Colombia.
Mexico, Spain, Colombia. Am I missing any, Jim?
I think those three. That's nice.
And they seem to be very engaged, quality group of people. I really was really impressed.
Hi. So I have just a couple comments about some of the things that have been discussed already, and some that will be discussed later, just when I have a chance in my mind. One was that the question of whether, I've asked Tony if he could look into the overall security policy as far as electronic devices, cell phones. What I'm wondering is if we should not be having as part of the student record for those kids that bring cell phones onto campuses, that if we shouldn't know what that number is for a variety of reasons, different aspects of security and safety are one, and to maybe have a more formalized, standardized form throughout the district where we record the cell phone number for the devices that are being used by different students, so that we know, since we have the role of kind of overseeing the safety of kids, it seems to make sense to have some knowledge of their ability to use a phone in different situations. So I've asked Dr. Warwick to look into that. The other thing is just about the litter on the campuses and how it's sad to see the campuses heavily littered, and I know that teachers see that too, and everybody reacts in a negative way to it. I think it's really important that we help our students feel a sense of ownership of that problem, and encourage them in any way that, and I know there is ongoing encouragement, but I can applaud those efforts, and I look forward to being able to engage students through their leadership activities to consider that their local environment and how the effect they can have on influencing the decisions kids make to affect the environment that everybody is trying to learn in. And then thirdly, as far as the overall disciplinary plan, one of the most common complaints I hear from kids over time is that how much disruption in a classroom impacts their learning. And even though different incidences will happen, and there's a different threshold in different classes for how quickly the teacher responds and what the consequence is for disruption, but I would certainly encourage, and I know this is a challenge for every classroom situation, but I would encourage, again, more of a level approach to that that is a very low tolerance for disruption so that it doesn't impact the learning of other kids. Because it's not just the child who is causing trouble, as we all know. It can have lasting consequences through the whole classroom session for many kids. And I would encourage us to keep that battle up, trying to squelch that and encourage kids to behave as best as they can. And then, just in case I forget it, Allison, please, is it Mr. Lopez is our agriculture teacher? Or am I?
Javier
Gutierrez, I'm sorry.
I left you a flyer.
Say again?
I left you a flyer for the barn dance that's coming up.
Oh.
Fundraise for the barn.
Okay.
That's from Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you. He mentioned sometime back the fact that the high school was the only place in the county where there was much of an ag program. And if you look at the CTE report that's coming later, that's very apparent. And he also indicated that there was an interest among some parents and some maybe county officials in helping the district organize a agricultural center to be located at the high school site. And has there been any progress in that? And can we do anything to help encourage that moving forward?
So we are looking to, we are the only ag program locally. And outside of 4-H, we're the only ones to participate in the San Mateo County Fair. So Javier has fortunately formed a professional learning community for himself. He meets with other ag teachers. And there is a movement right now to look to fix up the greenhouses. We've been partnering with HEAL for quite a few years now. I believe we're on at least a formal 3 years. I've secured funding with Javier for, I believe it's almost $16,000 through Perkins. That money was formally given to funding a section of the animation. And we are now using it to, and have distributed it to cover greenhouse repair, hopefully to add to the barn fund. So we're working in bits and pieces. He's partnered very closely with Tomcat, with Feed and Fuel. So he's formed a lot of partnerships locally. So it's in the works. But that has become our priority on campus as our main CTE pathway that we want to really focus on. All of his courses are UC A through G approved, which will also help with enrollment in courses. We've talked about a change to our feeder program. So I don't know if that answers your question. A lot of work and a lot of focus is going into ag and on ag.
Great, and I would encourage you to strengthen it, please.
What's the feeder program then? Other schools?
Looking
or other
to-
students that might join that program? From
And
other
how
districts?
we re-educate now about the program, about the pathway. We've brought in ag practices, which is being funded by the ag boosters. It's a 0.1 FTE for Javier, so it's a real leadership class, internship class, real world experiences. They've taken on a lot of projects on our campus. They're partnering with special education or SDC students to help partner with students to build up the gardens behind our portables. So it is the focus now. And I think that as we redirect our funding, that shows where our support is of the pathway. It is the best developed pathway, and it most closely aligns to our community.
Yes.
And we want to support that. That and, of course, marine ecology. I think those are our two just real prides of the coast.
Okay, thank you. Okay. That's all, the only comments I have. Thank you.
No, I have no comments.
I just want to make a few comments on the stuff from earlier. I love the parent education that was going on in some of the summer school programs about positive discipline and other things. And it seems like that fits in really well with what we were talking about just now in our discipline strategies. And I know that there is some other parent education during the year, but maybe that could be something, taking some of those models from the summer program and trying to do them more universally. I know that it's come up in our conversations with Moonridge in the past. And so I thought that that might be a way that we could also increase some of that education around parents and school districts working together on kind of that positive discipline and strategies. I know that's a need. Been busy the last little times on kind of lots of, it seems like, groundwork for things, both the strategic planning process, which is moving along great, and also the potential for a parcel tax renewal in June. Been meeting with different parent leaders and planning meetings for parent leaders and teachers just to begin floating that idea to see if our community has the appetite or the energy to even do that. It's clearly necessary. We have 1.7 million a year we now get from Measure E, from the parcel tax, and if it goes away in a year and a half, we no longer have those funds. And I think that we do, I think the reports tonight are evidence of the wonderful work that we're currently doing and the amazing things that we're able to do with Coastal Rep and our everyday teaching, and I'm hoping that we can gather that energy and build that momentum so that we can renew Measure E and continue to have those funds as a steady local source. So that's something we've been working on. And
What's their response?
people are positive, but you really need to gauge kind of that larger community and see what people are
I
feeling.
was impressed with the public forum that we attended, although it wasn't well attended by the community.
Oh, yeah.
I thought the folks that came, the conversation was spirited and the presentation was excellent.
Yeah. It was a good presentation, but not enough people to hear it.
Another one on the 26th?
It's the 23rd.
23rd.
They weren't getting the word out on this one. More each time.
Great. Student board member?
I have reports from Kings Mountain, Pilarcitos, and the high school. So Kings Mountain. Our school year started out sweet with our annual cookie sale fundraiser. We made giant cookies and sold them at the Kings Mountain Art Fair. Kindergartners have finished 26 letters in 26 days and found time to bake apple crisp. 2 to 3 grades are using KWL charts to formulate questions while reading nonfiction text, along with the understanding that nonfiction reading is reading to learn. The 4-5 class is working on opinion writing, choosing between two situations and persuading with well-reasoned arguments. We have formed a 5th grade recess committee which meets once a week to discuss what is going well and what are the problems or topics we want to address. The Sheriff's Department held a movie night at the school, which lots of family came to and had fun. They served popcorn and watched Hotel Transylvania on a giant screen under the stars. The school fall cleanup occurred last weekend and parents gardened, cleaned leaves, and washed down classrooms. Looking forward, the 4th grade is planning a door decorating contest for Halloween. Be looking for the winners in the Lions of War, the bi-monthly Kings Mountain Elementary School newspaper. And from Pilarcitos, they're really happy with the Coyote Society program that they're doing. And they find the Pilarcito Pounds very motivating. And they have the Khan Academy, which is a math and YouTube video format, and they find this really helpful to them because it's easier for them to understand. Something that they're doing is they're starting their garden club again, so they're looking forward to that. And they really enjoy their tablets that they've been using. It's easier for them. And they gave a gift of gratitude to Dr. Berwick out of recycled paper or stuff. The high school so our homecoming week is coming up, and this whole month has been very hectic. We had ballots out today for King and Queen. King and Queen will be announced at our homecoming dance next Friday at 10 o'clock. Campus beautification is this Saturday, and all 4 classes are going to do their class projects there. It ranges from painting pools to power washing old paint and stuff on the ground. GSA had a great turnout today. After Club Jam last week, we had Club Jam, and we had a lot of people join new clubs, and that was really good. Seniors are doing their applications, letters of recommendation, so that's where we are at the high school.
Great. Thank you, Brenda. Tony?
Excuse me. I'm going to start with the most recent event, and that was last night's Talk, Listen Community workshop that was held to celebrate and promote Challenge Day. The parents in attendance were treated to the video that we all saw last year. And then the most powerful part was we heard from 3 students, 3 seniors who this year served as team leaders and last year as juniors were participants. And they shared very personal stories of how impactful Challenge Day had been to them, both initially and then in their role as teen leaders this last year. And as further testament to some of the comments made by Allison Silvestri earlier, one of the students said that Challenge Day to her represents year 3 of our Renaissance. Wow. She used that term. And so that was, it's getting in, clearly. We also had the opportunity to play some of the games and enact some of the simulations in a simulated format, some of the activities that the kids go through, and it was 5% of what Challenge Day is, but it was still pretty powerful and a little bit emotional too for those of us who were there as we were reflecting on our own time in high school and our experiences with our own kids. Tomorrow is the last day of the fall parent-teacher conferences for the elementary schools, and you know, we all understand how important this is as our partnership with parents and as our co-educators of their children. CUNYA's conferences are later in this month from October 22nd to 24th. And finally, our immersion study group was convened this week. The purpose of the group is to discuss and ensure as an outcome that we have a well-articulated K-12 program that's research-based and is meeting the needs of all students. At this last meeting earlier this week, we looked at performance and enrollment data, and our next meeting on October 29th, we're going to begin to look at relevant research into immersion and models and the results that are being in the field from the various models that are available. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. That brings us to item 13, consent items. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved 5 + 1 to 0. Brings us to our action items. Item 14A, hold public hearing and approve resolution number 32-13 regarding the statement of assurances for the pupil textbook and instructional incentive program for the 2013-2014 school year. Elizabeth?
This is our annual public hearing that we are required to hold in order to receive funds to purchase instructional materials and provide education to the students in our school district. It's an education code 60119. And we need to ensure that all students in our school district have the standards-aligned textbooks and instructional materials that are necessary for them to use in class, and when appropriate to take those materials home. So we have reviewed at each of the school sites and have verification from each school site that every student has the sufficient materials that they are required to have and that they need to have. I think I've mentioned to you previously that for our school district, we're very fortunate that we do and have been providing materials to our students. There are school districts that are not able to do that and do not provide materials to all of their students. So it's something our district should be proud of.
Great, thank you.
Can I ask a question, Elizabeth? When you say providing the materials to the students, does that mean every student has a book both in school and at home?
No, that's a common misconception, Kate. What the intent is that a student has a book that they can use in the class, and when appropriate, they would be able to take it home, not 2 sets of books.
And does it talk about the age of the books?
No, it doesn't speak at all to the age of the books.
So a common question I hear from parents is, or a comment about how, oh, there's, you know, I have 3 kids and they've all used the same textbook. It hasn't changed in X number of years. How widely How common is that in our district?
So we've been on a freeze for the last 3-4 years of not being able to purchase any textbooks, and the money was actually swept with the Tier 3 flexibility and has been used for general fund purposes. The textbooks that we have could be 7 to 9 years old at this point. They shouldn't be any older than that. We do use at some point in time books that are not our currently adopted books as a resource. Teachers still use them even though they've been considered not the current edition. But the books that we use are within about 7-9 years old.
And it's not just Cabrillo, and it's not just because we swept the dollars for general fund purposes. There have been no materials available from the state. The adoption cycles were frozen 3.5 years ago, and materials have not been forthcoming. Last week, the State Board of Education it's not an adoption, it's a recommendation of the first instructional materials aligned to Common Core in mathematics. And as you're going to hear a little bit later, with the one-time influx of dollars to align for districts to get ramped up to the Common Core, we're going to present, or Dr. Shuck's going to present our recommendations on how to allocate approximately $660,000 coming in over the next 2 years.
That money's coming in, $660,000.
Correct, one-time dollars.
This also brings up the point of that I remember Hatch School Site Council gentlemen stood up and talked about that the math book is being paid for out of their categorical funds. And is that happening at every campus? Is that a textbook issue that we...
That's you want to go ahead.
So when we adopted the math text, excuse me, the everyday math program, it was our understanding that the student journal was a piece of the core material to run the program. And if there were teachers in the audience at this point, elementary teachers, they would tell you that they absolutely feel that it is a core component of the program. The company doesn't agree with that, and they do send us what they do consider to be the core materials, the home links and the study links, which will also cease to come to us now that the adoption has expired. But the materials that we see as the core are supplemental materials, and so then if a school chooses to purchase those materials, they would need to use other funds other than district funds.
How could we have made such a horrible mistake?
So we had a salesperson. Sean Kelly was his name. Sean Kelly, wherever you are in the world, we're still looking for you. Sean Kelly presented the materials to us in the piloting process and assured us that the materials would be forthcoming, and they were the first year. They were the year that he was here, we did get all those materials. And any subsequent year after that, we've had to struggle to purchase the materials. We wrote a letter to the company the first year, the second year, the third year that this occurred over and over again, because we felt very strongly that we had been misled by the company.
No response from to those letters?
The same response, that it was never intended to be part of the core material.
Wow.
So can we do better? I've had this conversation with you about some of the e-services that are promised with textbooks. So can we have better fine print in our purchase agreements that puts us in a better place than having to beg them because they don't want to be responsive, but we should have some teeth in our contracts.
And another example of with the e-materials that we looked at this year, because the social studies adoption is also completed and we were looking to move to the electronic version. The company right now is not giving you the option of only purchasing the electronic version. They want to be able to charge us for both the hard copy and the electronic version. It's not an either or. You have to pay one fee for both at this point in time. So they're capitalizing on the fact that they know districts want these materials and need the materials.
Going back to the former process, what materials are core and what materials are supplemental, and the pricing for those materials is negotiated with the state, with CDE, and those are posted to the website. And there's no flexibility to argue, to negotiate, to get a sweeter deal. Those are statewide negotiated agreements with the publishing companies. So it's...
Well, then how are they allowed to mislead us in that situation? That
So if I had in front of me to be able to show you the materials that we got, it does say in the material, it says, core to this program are these materials. Basically, key components of this program are these materials. And the math journal that we're referring to was listed in that list, and that's where we believe that we were misled that this was part of the core material. When you look at the list online or you get the order form online or in print, it's not listed as a free material, it's listed as a supplemental material.
Yeah.
If we're holding the public hearing, do I do a formal? Okay. So, beginning. So, opening a public hearing on resolution number 32-13 regarding the statement of assurances for pupil textbook and instructional incentive program. Any comments? Okay. Closing the public hearing. And then a motion to approve the resolution. Is there any more questions or comments? Or so moved. Second motion?
I'll second.
It's a roll call vote. Kirk?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
5 + 1, it passes. That brings us to item 14B, approve and certify the 2012-2013 unaudited actuals financial report and adopt the GAN limit resolution number 33-13.
So the actual report that is submitted to the state is the large report that is behind the advertisement sheet, and then the report that was given earlier is a summary of that report.
What about the pink pages? Are these going to be supplemented? Are any of the numbers in the actual report here?
The pink.
The numbers are wrong? Or?
Yes, just on that very first page.
Which form, the pink?
The pink form, and then the first page of Form 01 in the actual report that was submitted to you is where the differences are.
So what page of the board packet contains
Let me see.
those numbers? Could you just...
The inaccurate numbers?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe noting which ones these are supplementing for in the board packet.
Right.
So, no, it looks like page 111.
111.
So 111, so I gave you a complete report, but the changes occur on
Yes.
page 111.
Yep. That's what I'm...
So page 1 is now page 1. Is the old page 111,
Yes.
basically. And that's the only one where there's any changes?
Yes.
Okay, so there's none in the actual report deeper down that has numbers that are inaccurate?
No, just this version.
And do you feel like you've resolved the issues with the numbers with the county, or have any
Yes.
understanding of how?
Yes, I feel like that they've been resolved. I must say that closing someone else's books is probably one of the most difficult things, because when someone operates through the year, they have a clear picture of what they're doing with the funds and what's coming in, and they're able to have their hand on that pulse. And so when you come in at the end of the year, I have to look at a number and then literally unravel each number to see if I can try to put that puzzle together. And then just a completely different county and new software. It's definitely a very difficult process. But the county has been supportive and in supporting the district, to make sure that we are compliant and moving forward in a good financial direction.
Right. And there was an inaccurate number that came from the county, I understood, or no, that's
Well,
not actual?
what happened was we get these accrual, in San Mateo you receive an accrual packet. So an accrual packet is related to all of the revenues that we receive throughout the year. So we could, we get $18 million in property taxes, and maybe in June, we don't really see this with property tax, that's probably not the best example, but in June, maybe that payment doesn't come in until July. Well, because the fiscal year ends on June 30th, we have to accrue that revenue for the following year, but it's actually revenue that we get in that previous fiscal. So what happened with the EPA revenue is that because we're a basic aid district, the funding for the EPA came in a little differently than regular districts that are revenue limit districts. It was a part of the accrual packet, but also my predecessor had accrued it as well. So it actually got
double counted.
It got double counted, and my challenge with the county is the accrual packet that they gave us is supposed to be hard, accurate data. I mean, it's supposed to be like a one-stop shop to know what you accrue to help you through this process. So the fact that had been done and wasn't checked, the software didn't catch that, to check that off was kind of concerning to me. So then it makes me just dive deeper and deeper and deeper, because as I look at the other projections and then where we're at now, you know, estimated actuals to unaudited, they should not be that different. Right. You know, there are going to be minor differences, but there are some areas that were significantly different. So as we move in and I continue to get settled, we can start to see those adjustments. But as for closing the books and where we are, this is accurate.
So, and I had some questions earlier about some of those differences, and so I'm assuming then that some of those differences are still in there because the number went down, but not that much. So at some point, maybe you can get some answers if you have an understanding of why there were those extreme differences.
And I do, for
I would
like
love to just know what those...
the supplies and just to kind of get that now, and I've been working with the principals. We get and kind of backs off on to the books. Our lottery money that we receive from the state, we receive two pots. One is restricted and one is unrestricted. As most districts, the unrestricted money usually goes towards salaries that are related to the classroom, usually certificated. And then the restricted funds, we receive about $120,000, so not too much. They're based off of ADA. Those funds are restricted and we can only use them for classroom supplies. So we need to make sure that we are spending those dollars on books and helping support and backfilling some of this, especially some of this new material that we're going to be getting for Common Core and replacement books for older books and so forth. So we did have a significant amount of carryover from 12-13 that moved to 13-14 that I'm trying to spend right now and allocate to the school so we can get some books right away.
Great, thank you. So, I'm sorry, I've forgotten where we are in the process.
Let's see.
Have we approved the
motion?
You mean the motion? Yes, we approved the last one.
Don't we have a motion?
I think the emotion, did you have a?
I thought we had a motion.
As amended, because it's.
I don't think we have a motion yet on this
Oh.
one. No, we did the other motion.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
we need a
Thank you.
motion on this as amended.
As amended.
Yes. Do I have a
Okay.
motion as amended by the pink sheet?
So
The
moved.
new numbers. Second?
Second.
So it's a roll call vote. Want to start, Michael?
Yes. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
So it passes 5+1. Okay, thank you, Crystal. So it brings us to item 14C, approve responses to San Mateo County Jury Report, a ticket to wear, San Mateo County's approach to high school career technical education.
What page is that on?
This is on 250. 250.
Thank you. It's such a huge chunk in the middle there.
Yes, yeah, with the financial documents.
Yeah.
So this is the second of two grand jury reports from last year that require a response from school districts. This one is related to career technical education programs and really wrapped around the umbrella of well, actually, career technical education is the umbrella, but it sort of focused on ROP, or Regional Occupation Programs, which is a state-funded program that provides CTE coursework, but it's not the only funding source for CTE. It's really a grand jury investigation and report that doesn't have much nexus to our district. We do not receive any ROP funds through the county. A number of years ago, when there were reductions to ROP, the county brought those in and now expends them in a centralized manner to programs over the hill. However, we do have a robust career technical education program, and thanks to the efforts of the high school, we successfully received the federal Perkins grant. We have CEF funding animation, and we have other support as well, and district general funds that support the number of CTE programs in here. And I believe the number, it's embedded in here. I had it at the top of my head, and it's gone now. But the number of CTE programs we have in our district. Yeah.
Could you?
Sure.
Why don't we get ROP funds?
ROP funds flow through the County Office of Education, and they have the decision-making responsibility for allocating those funds. And at one time, and I'm not sure when that was, a number of years ago, we did have some of those dollars did flow here and did support programs in Cabrillo Unified. There were reductions about 6 years ago in ROP, some significant reductions. I'm not sure if that's when it happened or not, but those funds were no longer provided to Cabrillo. The decision was made then to centralize them. Now, technically, we have in the ROP Center over the hill in San Mateo, our students have access to those programs. But again, they're after-school programs in San Mateo, and we have exactly 0 kids last year that took advantage of those programs. It's not realistic for our students to be expected to do that. So,
what was the logic of centralizing, just so there wasn't a dilution of dollars? They were trying to concentrate somewhere,
right?
Enable something,
and that's where the population is centered. So, yeah. So the impact of this again is, yes, we agree with the findings, which are essentially that coursework in CTE is critical, and that students ought to be informed of their opportunity to access these courses. But in terms of the ROP component of it, it's not applicable to our district. So I'm asking.
Counted 16.
Was that?
16.
16 CTE courses. Thank you. And you can see that. So you can see that there's definitely a commitment by the high school to allocate sections to CTE. So it's not something we're ignoring. It's just something we're not receiving the very funding that is at the heart of the investigation. And if you're wondering whether or not we're in conversation with Dan Campbell, the answer is yes.
Well, it's certainly interesting to look at the distribution of courses in the other schools.
Doesn't seem fair.
It does not seem
We
fair,
agree
does
with
it?
the recommendation that they be more dispersed to other schools.
I
that
thought
no
your
longer
response was good.
offer. Yeah.
Does Diane Santoni still work with the ROP programs, or is she retired now?
No, she was not continued in that role, and they made a major change in the program, and that's when we lost our funding through the district.
So that's been a number of 6 years, maybe 7.
And we've mentioned it for the last several years that it's not equitable.
I just thought it was great that this came up at this time. It feels like this is something we've talked about a little bit, and hopefully will be addressed maybe in our strategic planning process if
Yes.
that comes up. And
Yes,
so,
it needs to be.
I thought it was very appropriate.
Definitely.
So
Timing
we
is
can
good.
continue to work on that. Any other comments or questions or discussion? Okay. This is just a regular roll call, right?
It's not a roll call, is it?
No, I mean regular vote.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the responses to the grand jury report.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5+1 to 0. It brings us to item 14D, approved contract with WLC Architects to design a modernization project for Hatch Elementary School.
Yeah, this is very satisfying to bring this to the board. This represents the first significant high leverage project under Measure S, the modernization of Hatch, the construction of a new classroom wing for Hatch Elementary School. As everyone here is well aware of WLC and the work that they did through the master planning process. We were able to successfully negotiate a reasonable contract for all architectural and design services. It's not just dollars that flow to WLC, but all of the engineering and other consultants that are needed to put together structural engineers, et cetera, to finalize the plans all the way through DSC and through construction.
There'll still be a bidding process for the actual construction?
Yes, there would be. It would be an open bid process for once we're ready to go out.
Okay. And when do we estimate the bidding for that to be?
We estimate construction for the summer of 2015, so bidding would be in springtime.
I'd like to do whatever we can to get some local bidders in that process. We've got a lot of people on the coast side who have services that will be used for that, so if that happens.
Well, it's open to everybody that can.
I know,
Well,
isn't it just the
certified, well,
lowest bid, isn't that still what?
No, I have to certify.
You're required, if you can reject a low bid for a reason. If you have a legitimate reason to disqualify them, for example, a previous experience working with that contractor and there were significant issues in that relationship, or but you have to have a good reason, and it can be challenged. And if it is challenged, it's going to hold up the process. But you're not required to award a contract. You're only required to put it out to bid.
And as I understand it, so for instance, if you're looking for contractors, as an example, or plumbing or electrician, there's a central portal for the county or for the region that licensed contractors who are interested in looking for work of that scale go to for proposals by organizations such as ourselves, commercial projects. And so they work through those portals and respond to our request for a bid. Is that correct, Tony, as I understand it? It's not like we slap posters up on the wall somewhere and go, hey, we want plumbers, right?
They're virtual posters.
So it's really this, yeah, I mean, is that?
That's accurate, and really you're accepting a bid from, or you're accepting proposals from general contractors, and they have their network of subcontractors. The general does not come in and do your plumbing, your electrical, your concrete, your sheetrocking. They sub all that out to subcontractors. So you may have, a general who could be from Half Moon Bay, working with subcontractors from Berkeley to San Jose.
But that would be a reasonable question that we could ask of the general contractor that was submitting a proposal is, do you have any subcontractors on the coast that you would work with? That'd be a reasonable question.
And I know this is off topic. Well, this conversation's off topic, but this is even further off topic. And that is, there is a process called lease back, which allows you to select a general contractor and work directly with them, such as the private, as a private entity could do. It's a complicated process, and the downside of that is that you do not have a guarantee that you have the lowest possible price. But if you have a contractor that you have great confidence in, you value engineer the entire project, they work directly with the architect through the design process. General contractors make their money on change orders. they're looking for issues where the architect forgot to do something, because they know when that issue comes up, it needs to be fixed and resolved, and they're going to be able to charge a premium. So they may underbid other aspects of it if they see lots of opportunity for change orders. Under a lease-leaseback process, the architect and the contractor work hand in hand. They go over everything. If the contractor sees an issue, it's to their advantage to bring it up and resolve it in the design process, because they're going to give you a price and they're going to live by that price. If there aren't change orders. The only change orders are if the district just says, you know what, we wanted carpet. That's what the specs say, but now we want granite. Obviously, granite's more expensive. So but that's something that the district would initiate. But that's something we can talk about down the road. We're a long ways from that.
Yeah, I was going to say, that might be a conversation in about a year or a half.
Yeah, exactly.
I just a quick comment about WLC and how pleased I've been with the process we went through to select them, the interview, the community, and so forth before we even picked them to do the master plan. Mm-hmm. It's been such a positive experience. I mean, they've listened to everybody. They've positively reacted to requests that we've made. They've been very creative in what we saw. They made it very tangible for us to touch and understand what we're looking for, what they heard, and see it tangibly. So I'm excited that we have the opportunity to ratify the contract for Hatch specifically tonight.
Great. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Seconded.
Second. All in favor?
Wait a minute, I have one question. Who has read this contract?
Maryland Cleveland Legal Counsel did the direct negotiating with WLC.
You mean you didn't read it, Kirk?
No, I'm sorry, that's why
I've read about 4 or 5 different versions of it through the process, iterations of it. But Maryland Cleveland, Dennis Walliver and Kelly represented the district directly in the negotiations.
Great, thank you.
And there were some hardball stuff going on behind the scenes.
Excellent.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's 5 plus 1.
With pleasure.
And now it moves us to item 14E, appointment of Measure E Citizens Oversight Committee members.
Yes, so we have 5 vacancies on Measure E. 4 of those vacancies are related to 3-year terms expiring. 346.
Thank you.
And 1 is due to a resignation. And so 4 current representatives, as per our bylaws, have requested that to the governing board that they be reappointed to the committee for the final 2 years of the Oversight Committee's term. And we have a new person who has applied, Sherazad Pantera, has applied to replace Mr. Johnson, who resigned, Patrick Johnson, who resigned due to just life and busy and everything else going on. So my recommendation that the board reappoint the 4 members, Crofton, Henderson, Steve Johnson, and Susie Tempesta, and new member Pantera.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have any comments, questions, discussion? Okay. I do think it's great that we still have the Measure E Oversight Committee. It was something voluntarily put on with this,
Yes.
and if we were to be lucky enough to have another parcel tax, we would like to also have
And
that.
that there's continuing members, that's nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fact that they're willing to serve is...
Thank them all.
Yes.
It was very insightful of the district to include that as part of the agreement with the community to go ahead and install a Citizens Oversight Committee when it wasn't necessary on the part of the district to do that. It creates greater confidence in our public that these funds are being expended appropriately.
Excellent.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved for
Plus
+1,
one.
1 abstaining. I move this item 15A. Elizabeth is ready. Discuss Common Core
I am.
State
I was-
Standards Local Implementation Plan.
I was hoping that the projector would power up for us in time so that we could keep moving. We
Just leave it on?
Oh, is it powering up right now? Is that what
It's powering up.
Should we take a
projector.
few minute break?
Yeah, but doesn't
Sure.
it have a sleep function? Couldn't we just
Well, it was, but I think we had so many items,
we get tired? You get more tired of it.
it's ready. We just need to switch PowerPoint. So this is a discussion item this evening on our Common Core State Standards Implementation Plan, which we are required to complete and submit to the state because we are receiving the funds that we discussed with you a bit earlier. And I realized as I was preparing this item for the board that we haven't really had a chance to talk about the Common Core State Standards as a group in a formal setting. And I thought it was important to sort of give the background and set the stage because we are receiving about $700,000 in funds over the next 2 years to support the implementation. And I had a video to show you, but with our internet not working this evening or today all day, we're not able to show you, but I've left it in case people would like to go to the link and see. This is on the California Department of Education website that talks about the reason behind the Common Core Standards and what they will mean for us as a state. I was at a math grant meeting with our secondary staff today, and we were working on, again, the math standards, Common Core, and what they will be looking and meaning for us in our classrooms. This is an overview, another piece from the Department of Education website that talks about the standards. They were actually implemented in August of 2010. And the work really began in earnest in 2011, and I will share with you later in this quick overview some of the activities that we've been participating in and working on since that time in our school district. And you will notice that this plan goes all the way through 2015, which will actually be the first time that we will be able to see the results of the assessments from the new Smarter Balanced consortium. There were a lot of summary pieces of information, and I think this is my favorite one. And although I don't like to read PowerPoint slides to you, because this is about music and the world, I would like to share that this sort of sums up what the Common Core Standards should be for us in this great opportunity that we have. Like an orchestra learning a challenging new symphony, bringing these standards to life in our schools will take time and energy, and the costs must be managed over time. These standards provide every part of our education system the same sheet music, with clear goals of career and college readiness for all, and we all have a part to play in the rollout and implementation. So we got new standards in English language arts and math. The standards in English language arts actually impact and affect all students in content areas. All teachers as well as English teachers will be rolling out these new standards, whether it's a science, social science teacher, and in our technical subjects. They are based much more and emphasis on the content-rich nonfiction and informational texts. Historically in our schools, we've looked at a lot of literature and fictional pieces of work, and there's a great emphasis now on nonfiction and how we're looking at how we connect to our real world. We're also doing a lot of writing. You've been hearing that we talk about more evidence-based. Earlier in the report, we talked about at the high school how the students are being more engaged in sharing evidence of the work that they're doing, and with a key emphasis on academic vocabulary. The shifts in mathematics, we're actually looking at 2 to 4 critical key shift areas in each of the grade levels. They're looking at more really understanding and practicing the math, not computation, not being able to solve problems, but to be able to talk about how you solved the problem, what was the intent of the problem, and we have done extensive work, I'll share with you later, already this year in this area. And the last key shift in the math is the focus on the rigor about how to apply this information to the real world. The new Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium is one of 2 federally funded programs that will support these new Common Core standards, and California has chosen to go with Smarter Balanced. The other organization is called PARC, and up until just this last week, we were waiting to hear what the State Superintendent of Public Instruction would do as far as reorganizing our assessment system. Our governor just signed last week Assembly Bill 484 that actually changes our assessment system, and it's the word we've all been waiting for, is that we will be suspending the CST tests this spring in language arts and math. We still need to, for
Science.
provide the science assessments in grades 5, 8, and 10, and we also have some requirements for still providing CAPA assessments for special education students and some CMA assessments for students. But for the most part, the big piece of the CST, and I think I mentioned last month when we shared our accountability report, that it might be the last time you hear about CST results, and indeed it will be in that form. We also will not get an API next year. We also will not get AYP results next school year, and it won't be until 2015 and 16 that we will begin hearing again about the accountability system, melding between the old assessments we had and the new Common Core assessments that we will be using going forward.
So this spring, will the students all do the Smarter Balance assessments, but it will be a trial year?
We have a field test that we will participate in. Selected schools and students in grades 2 through 8 will participate in a field test for English language arts or math. What we don't know, and we hope to hear by the end of this month, is how many schools it would be in our district and how many students it would be in the district.
The state will decide that?
The state will decide that.
The state will decide which schools and which subjects.
So
and
not
what grade
everyone will
levels.
get tested.
Not everyone will be tested. Approximately 20% of the students in the state.
So the state has an implementation plan that is really a living document that is evolving. And again, today at this math grant meeting that I was at, they talked about the fact that they're already discussing revising the way that the standards are presented to students and teachers. And I hear Kate laughing because that's exactly what we fear, is that we think we're going to be working on something and it changes. It's like flying the plane or building the plane while you're flying it.
You gotta love education, huh?
We have to be flexible. I think that's going to be one of the key words. So because of that, each county and school district is being asked to develop plans as far as implementation and transition to the new Common Core standards. And as a requirement of receiving the funds to support that implementation, we need to do 2 things. The first is to develop a plan that talks about what we will do with the funds we're receiving. And the second is to and have it approved by our board, share it at one meeting, have it approved at a subsequent meeting, and then in 2015 in July to be able to give information on what we did and what we utilized those funds for. So our plan, this is basically what our plan looks like. I just took the table of contents page so you can get an idea of what it looks like. There's an overview of what the purpose is. There are 7 strategies that the state is asking us to look at as far as utilizing the funding and building our plan. There's an actual plan, and then there's a summary of that plan. And the last piece is basically what will we do, how will we support the 3 critical areas. The 3 critical areas that funding can be used for: professional development for our teachers and our staff and other classified employees, instructional materials aligned to the new content standards. Earlier, Dr. Rorick referred to the math list that we got. There were 36 programs that submitted materials for approval, and 30 of those programs have been recommended. Our process for adopting materials will look very different going forward. We've never had 30 kinds of math programs that we could choose from. The third area that we can use funds for is the integration of these content standards through technology-based instruction. The key areas, as I've mentioned, they talk about using money to support professional development, provide resources, align our assessment systems, collaborate with our parents and community so that they begin to learn about what these new Common Core standards are, collaborate with our community and our secondary universities to collaborate on learning about what these systems are, and then basically establish an effective communication plan. The three areas we've looked at and how we are proposing to expend the funds, we would like to leave the majority of the money for instructional materials. As we mentioned earlier, we need to be looking at materials in language arts and math. And if you imagine that we're looking at 3,300 students across the district in both English language arts and math, we're leaving a huge chunk of the money, the majority of the money, 75% of it, for instructional materials and resources. It's the first time in a number of years that we've had any funds to buy instructional materials, and it's important that we are able to bring ourselves whole and have new materials aligned to the Common Core standards. As Dr. Rorick mentioned, the only ones we have are math at this point. There are no other materials that have been approved or developed yet. Michael's shaking his head.
This is software, or this is
at this point, they are programs. I haven't looked at any of the math programs that have been, we just got the list on Friday.
Is this the group of 30?
Yes.
So they're curriculum packages, they're software to be used on newer technology, or what is
it could be either. For example, the Glencoe company that I know, theirs is an online system. The Dana Center Agile Mind that we're working with right now, Agile Mind has theirs, was approved. That's the grant people that we're working with, and they've got an online system, but others are also hard copy textbooks.
So is there any danger that the state approves these 30 and then we choose one, and then in a year or two the state decides to revise that 30 list, and suddenly we're stuck with something that is no longer approved and we have to purchase new? I mean, is there any way of protecting ourselves from that in terms of our contract with suppliers or something?
Recommendation from the county is to not be purchasing anything right now, but to wait several months to hear what the plan would be about how you would go about piloting and adopting materials, and not rush into spending the funds at this point. We have these funds for a 2-year period of time, so we've got some time to wait and see what the processes should be and before we expend monies. The other 25% we're proposing to use for professional development for our staff to support this implementation. And we are not recommending utilizing any of the money for the technology piece, because we are very, very fortunate that we have our bond that has set aside money for us that we're seeing right now in the rollout of the Cohort 1 teachers and the tablets in each of the classrooms. You even heard Mr. Betcher refer to the students at Pilarcitos that have their tablets and how effective they've already been in just the month that we've been in school. So we're not recommending to use any of the money for that purpose. We're very fortunate in our school district. I thought that you would like to know a little bit about what we've been doing since 2011. We sent a great number of teachers from each of our elementary schools to a county-sponsored workshop to come back and train other teachers. By all accounts, including by the county themselves, it was not a good training and it was not effective in helping teachers get prepared to implement the new standards, and they've changed their models and are offering different types of workshops at this point. We also sent our department chairs for the same type of a workshop, and it was not well received by our staff. I sat in both sets of workshops. The elementary was a bit more effective because we were online with computers, but the training manual that they wanted our teachers to use with their colleagues at their school sites was 500 pages long. Take this back and implement Common Core standards.
How much does that cost?
It was like $25 for each teacher to attend, mostly for the food. It wasn't, and the binder.
Okay.
So last year were involved in many more activities. We started the year with a complete district-wide staff development day on Common Core standards, much more effective, a broad understanding, just a brush view of what the standards are and what it would mean for us in our classrooms and for teaching and learning. Our administrators and teachers participate in workshops provided by the county. Our administrators received small group instruction or professional development on math and language arts implementation. And our secondary teachers participated in a math institute provided by the Silicon Valley Math Initiative you've heard about previously. Probably one of the most powerful professional developments they've been a part of is the feedback. And then each of the school sites developed for this school year a district plan and a site-based plan on what we would do as far as implementing Common Core standards. And you approved those plans last spring. This year, again, we spent time in the summer with our administrators. We had a retreat and we talked about how would we create a district-wide plan and the site-based plans that the state was asking and guiding us to make sure that we would stay on our path of successful transition. For the opening day of the school year, we focused on the new Smarter Balanced assessments so that our staff could understand how to transition from our paper pencil multiple choice assessments to the interactive computer-based descriptive responses that students will be providing. We, as a follow-up to that secondary math institute, we provided a week-long math institute for our 4th and 5th grade teachers, also provided by the Silicon Valley Math Initiative, and they're in the middle of that right now. It will finish next week. They're very excited about the prospects. Mr. Betcher wanted me to make sure to share with you that every other week he has a math activity, school-based, focused on Common Core standards. All of our schools are doing that, but he was very proud to share with you that he jumped right into that and was able to start practicing the types of assessments that the students will be involved in. We have we have a series with the county staff coming to work with our administrators to help them identify specific ways that they can work with staff and support this transition. The schools are focusing their weekly collaboration schedule and their monthly staff development days on this. And there are meetings at the county that I attend up on the implementation. The whole year is set up for this rollout. So this evening is the discussion of the plan, and the proposal would be to come back to you next month and ask you to approve the plan the way that we've written the delineation of expending the funds over the next 2 years.
Can I ask you a question?
Questions? Discussion?
Assessment systems. What are these going to be, tablets and such? What do you find?
So the assessment that we're looking at will be an online assessment. You could use a variety of tools to take this assessment. You could use a computer, you could use a laptop, you could use a Chromebook, you could use a tablet. But what we're experiencing with our first rollout, and I'm sorry that Ann's not here to help give some feedback, is that the tablets that we got as our decision from our tech committee, they don't have keyboards. And you need an adapter to attach a keyboard. So it was easy for Ann to order the keyboards to attach and the adapters, except the company is back ordered on its adapters. So we sit right now today with tablets in the classrooms with teachers, but no keyboards for them to be able to, if they needed to access this assessment right now. We do have the ability to use our labs and our other hardwired computers for the assessment. And the assessment will be interactive for the students. It may be one-on-one, it may be in small cooperative groups. And it will take a lot of learning for our students to be able to interact on a tablet or a Chromebook or a laptop.
So, and we're not going to buy the math package yet, so what can these kids do with the technology they have in hand that they're not waiting for parts for to get themselves ready?
So that's an excellent question. The Silicon Valley Math Initiative has a website that as members, as a member district, we have access to, and the website itself has curriculum based on the new Common Core standards, and it has assessments that are very similar to the assessments we'll be utilizing. And that was part of our discussion today, actually, at the secondary math grant meeting, was how often are you using that website to pull down what we call Mars tasks, because that's what they're based on. And practice with your students so that they can get that feel of what it's going to be like in the spring of 2014. The Agile Mind, as I said, the other grant that we're working on also has a website, and our secondary staff is starting to pull down the curriculum and the assessments from that website as well. The elementary staffs are able to access Silicon Valley Math Initiative, and I know that the 4th and 5th grade teachers have started pulling some of the curriculum and assessments.
Thank you.
So I just had a question about our professional development funds. I mean, it seems a pity that the teachers all went to something at the county and then it ended up not being very productive. I see that we're doing a lot of other stuff with the county. Do we feel like they're the best ones to help mentor us through this and that they've already learned that the mistakes that they made? I don't know, it's just...
So I want to clarify that they actually came to us when that time that I mentioned that the 26 teachers participated, because we represented all but 3 of the teachers that signed up for that training in that particular year. They have been very reflective, and in all honesty and fairness, the state is rolling out these activities like weekly. They change and there's something new, and there's no template for professional development one week, and then the next week here's a suggestion, and then the third week, oh, well, now we have a better suggestion. In my mind, the county has kind of reflected that. I think that they completely understood that the plan that they had been given and asked to roll out, which is this implementation trainer of trainers, did not work. So they've completely modified the plan that they're using for working with staffs. And what I've done is to make sure that when they come, they're presenting with our principals practical ideas to take back to work with their staff. I've rather chosen to work with Silicon Valley Math Initiative for providing the actual hands-on professional development for teachers.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
That's not on the tape, is it?
So for this 169,000 that we're talking about for professional development, do we know yet where that's going to go? Is that going towards the Silicon Valley Math Initiative or Agile, or are we thinking other areas? Or?
So to begin with, we would like to be able to support the work that we're doing with Silicon Valley Math Initiative, with the Dana Center Agile Mind work that we will work on for the next 3 years as part of the grant, to continue the work with our consortium of the 3 school districts, and then to continue to look and seek out more effective means of professional development.
Okay, so we don't yet know what some of that will be in terms of maybe language arts in particular.
Exactly, especially in the area of language arts. One area that is not addressed are the mathematics works for the elementary schools. There's an opportunity for them to become part of the 3-year grant, but it's a little overwhelming, given that at the secondary schools you're talking about a relatively small number of teachers, the math department.
Right.
Elementary school, every teacher is a
math teacher.
Yeah, right, and so the expectations are there that every teacher attends the professional development on the same day. You're going to have every kindergarten through 5th grade teacher out on across the district. It's not realistic. So, but there are, through the Silicon Math Initiative, there are parallel professional development opportunities that are being presented in strands that we can access.
I mean, have we considered at all switching that number? Because we have 75% for materials and 25% for professional development. Is it possible that we might need some more for professional development? And we have this other money that Crystal was mentioning earlier for materials that we could potentially use. I don't know.
Small pot, but yes, just
Potentially.
And can we shift this plan? Like, so
yes.
if we adopt this plan next month, and
absolutely.
then after a year we realize that we have the materials through another source, we prefer to put some more money into professional development, we could have that flexibility.
We would. What we need to understand is that the costs of adoption in language arts and math is going to more than double the $500,000 that we're putting aside K-12. And we have been in as a district, we've been in financially just meeting our 3-year multi-year projections and not being able to set aside dollars for targeted uses and swept every dollar possible that could have supported the purchase of instructional materials. We're making a tremendous shift in our instructional practice with the Common Core, and we need to ensure, yes, we need to ensure that teachers have the professional training to make the shift. We also need to ensure they have the instructional materials, because without that, all the professional development in the world is going to be, you can teach somebody to be the best sailor in the world, but if you don't give them the boat and the sails and outfit it and rig it, to what end? So, you know, I think it's prudent to set aside as many dollars as we can to put those materials in their hands, but it's not set in stone, you know?
Yeah, I'm not saying for sure.
Right.
It seems like there is other pots of money for materials that could potentially.
And the option to change it.
And the option
Right.
to change it. I mean, we can
Right.
also use some of our bond technology money for materials for one time. I mean, we're using it for the you know, but if we want to purchase a program for.
We can't.
Or you couldn't purchase it.
No, we can't buy software with the bond funds. We can buy hardware, but not the software, which includes the instructional materials, unfortunately. If we could, we would
So we can
have
buy
made a different
books,
decision.
right? Physical books, not with bond money?
Not with bond money, no.
So, how, I mean, professional development, of course, is valuable, and it improves things, but how limited are we with, you know, are we unable to get much out of these devices without extensive professional development? I guess it's well, this way I can state it. We're not paralyzed without it, right?
Without the devices?
No, without development.
Oh,
Are we really?
the professional development is not really about the integration of the technology into the classroom. The vast majority of professional development we're talking about here would be really shifting the mindset from the standards we've had up until recently and looking at how do we change practice in the classroom to address student needs in this new manner. For many of our teachers, this will just be ramping up a style that they've already used. But for a number of our teachers, it will be a completely new way of teaching, and we need to provide the professional development in order to support that. Just the conversation I can give you today, I'm in the room with our math teachers, Michelle Oldman, Jennifer Walton, Terry Lovelace, Raj is there, Allison is there, and Lalo's there. They ask for the whole team to come to each of these meetings. And we're sitting with the same team from South San Francisco and La Honda Pescadero, probably 35 people in the room. All 35 of them are on board with Common Core standards. And every time we talk about something that unpacks them a little bit more, or peels back the onion a little bit more, we're having half-hour discussions on, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't know that was something that was going to change in my classroom. And we're talking about the forerunners of our program and our leaders. So it's a culture shift is what this professional development is meant to support.
Okay, but if we do have some people that are up to speed, a little more advanced than others, so will there be some sort of a triage process to make sure that we help those who need the help the most as soon as possible, kind of thing? If we've got limited dollars and maybe limited choices of valuable.
Yep, absolutely.
Professional development.
Yes, differentiated instruction for.
I took that from Missy.
Good job.
That wasn't mine. Okay.
Okay, any more comments or questions, discussion? This will come again the next time.
I'd just like to add to the information that Dr. Shuck just provided is that we have our own professional development as administrators with the county on the Common Core as well. And one of the data points that they provided us this week was the current CSTs assess about 2%. About 2% of the CSTs reach a level beyond basic computation and skill. The Smarter Balanced assessments in mathematics, 59% of the assessments require students to not only solve a problem, but justify the reason why they solved the problem, and just these incredibly higher order thinking processes that are not represented on the CST. So the implications there are tremendous for the type of instruction that needs to happen every single day in the classroom, so that this isn't the first time kids are asked to do that when they open up the laptop and log on to the Smarter Balanced Assessment. So it is a tremendous shift. It is a tremendous shift in instructional practice. So yeah, professional development, building the skill set to make that shift for many of our teachers who have only taught under this No Child Left Behind, high accountability, skill-based model is going to be essential.
I do think that we do have a lot of teachers that, like you're saying, teach that way already, and then they have just had to adapt a little bit at the end to make way for CST, and they'll be excited to embrace this new model and have more tools to kind of embrace it with. So.
Yeah, and help spread, help each other.
I have a comment. I've heard a lot of the discussions, and I've actually visited some of the websites and actually explored some of the curriculum that the kids will be undergoing. And one of the things that I'm tremendously interested in seeing is the assessment element that is going to need to be in place in regard to the open-ended assessment. You know, who are going to be the folks that evaluate our students? Are they going to be retired teachers, retired superintendents? Are they going to be professionals that are hired by the state or by the testing companies that manufacture the testing? And then, you know, the rubrics themselves to do the assessment. Because the way it's being, you know, as I understand it, and it's really exciting. In some ways, it's not as much of getting the right answer as actually, if you have the wrong answer, showing that your wrong answer has some thought behind it, some elements that, you know, direct it and show that you have some understanding. So that's something I'm looking forward to hearing more about.
I was thinking that as we were sitting here earlier, something triggered in my mind. I think what I would like to do is bring back one of the assessments and show you kind of briefly what it looks like. I think it would help us to keep up with what our staff and community is starting to learn about.
Yeah, so maybe before the approval of this, there could be a little bit more, another presentation or discussion about what's being implemented right now.
Okay. Next day on the test.
So item 16, future board agenda items. We'll have our strategic plan presentation in November, so a month away. Policy maintenance updates. Any other future board? We'll maybe have this approval. Future events dates. October 14th, schools are closed for Columbus Day. October 17th is the Great California Shakeout at 10:17 a.m. Are those earthquake drills? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
I think we know ahead of time, right? October 17th is the Parent College Night at the Half Moon Bay High School at 6:30. October 18th is the end of the first quarter. We have Pumpkin Festival.
Is that right?
First quarter already. October 18th. October 21st to 25th, the PCG consultants are visiting again, so some of us will be meeting with them. They'll have their community forum on Wednesday. October 23rd at 6 p.m. at the high school. October 23rd, oh, that's what that is, community forum. October 24th is our strategic planning steering committee, 6:30 here. Kate, are you still? And I'll be there. October 28th is our Measure E Oversight Committee organizational meeting at 5:30 p.m. here. October 30th is incoming freshman orientation for the Half Moon Bay High School at 6 p.m. November 2nd is the Black and Orange Ball. November 4th is our Measure S Oversight Committee meeting at 6 p.m. in the Cunha Library. And November 5th to 7th is our parent-teacher conferences at the Cunha Intermediate School. And November 5th is our Chamber Education Committee meeting. Who's attending that?
Didn't Kate come to
Chamber?
the meeting?
Yes, I'm chamber.
Okay.
Yes, I'm chamber.
November 11th, schools are closed again for Veterans Day. November 14th is our next board meeting.
Boy.
So we need a motion to extend our meeting past 10 because we need to return to closed session.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Second that emotion.
Reluctantly, second.
But I would like, with the following caveat, there's something very dead under that side of the building. And I can't sit in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so
We
if
have closed
could
session in here?
reconvene in another location in the building, that would be.
I mentioned it earlier.
Oh, is it the flowers?
Yeah,
Oh,
there's,
can we just take them out?
Really?
It's the water and the.
An arrangement that's in there?
there's two arrangements.
It's the type of flower.
Oh, yeah,
bad.
some are like that.
Okay, so recess to closed session, we'll figure out where. Oh, wait, no, first motion to extend past 10 PM.
We have a
We have to
second.
vote.
Oh,
No, we have to vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
You don't have to stay, but you can vote.
We're
Yes,
done.
we're done. Thank you.